Recording.
Okay, welcome everybody. We're at 8 for a quorum, so we'll start in. So it's Thursday, October 23rd, it's 6:09. We're gonna call the executive committee meeting, Community Board 1 to order. The first item up that we're going to have a presentation is from HPD, which I really appreciate. It's Where We Live in New York City 2025, a fair housing presentation. Housing is one of the most greatly debated topics in our neighborhood for a very long time. It's been our number one budget priority for as long as I've been chair, so many years, 5 years. All right, so welcome, please join us at the table, introduce yourselves, and Zach can either give you a remote control, and please, love that.
Tell us who you are.
Yes.
I'm sorry, before you start, everybody you should have one capital list and one expense district fees
Yeah.
list. They're organized by agency. Okay, sorry.
Is that related to our presentation?
It is not.
Yeah, well, I'm sure your stuff's on there.
And just, can you remind me what time you want us to be done? Because I'm sure you have other agenda items.
Don't worry, kick it off, let's see.
Okay, all right, well, cut us off if you need to. Hi, everybody, my name is Renee Widdison. I'm the Director of Equitable Neighborhood Initiatives. We're from the Office of Neighborhood Strategies at HPD, and our office does public engagement. We also are, not our team, but a sister team. They do the public site redevelopment, pre-development, and development process. So our team primarily works on fair housing. I'm here with Miranda, also from my team. I'm very excited to share with you about Where We Live NYC 2025, which is the city's second fair housing plan. We published this plan 3 weeks ago, so fresh off the presses. We are not experts in your neighborhood, you know that. But we do work at 100 Gold Street, but we're not as intimately connected with the specifics of what's going on here. We can certainly speak to the citywide issues. That's really Where We Live NYC is a citywide plan. So we're looking at citywide trends, citywide issues, and citywide policy solutions. Okay. Bob has a little buzzer. Okay, so as you know, we're going to talk about what fair housing is, a little bit of the history of it. It's a very important foundation for the work. Then what Where We Live NYC is as a plan and a process. We'll talk about the plan, a little bit about what's in it. Hope you explore it and read it if you have not already. Talk a little about next steps, and then happy to have a Q&A. And we're also happy to come back another time if there are questions that we can get to say. Okay, so fair housing, is this something that everyone here already feels familiar with? Seeing nods and then not, so do a little bit. So the kind of foundation and the reason that we do this work at all is that in 1968, federal civil rights legislation was passed called the Fair Housing Act. And this was the first time in American history that it became illegal to discriminate against people based on race, color, religion, or national origin in renting, buying, or securing financing for own. It's very important to think about why that law had to be passed. It's because that form of discrimination was rampant and had been shaping American cities and towns since America existed. And unfortunately, those trends still exist, but we do now have laws that make it illegal. And that federal law also includes a provision where local governments should be not only preventing discrimination, but affirmatively furthering fair housing. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means. But so do you know that there are 7 protected classes? There are 7 aspects of who you are as a person that cannot be discriminated against based on the federal law. So it includes now sex, disability, and family status. We are very lucky to live in a city and a state that has added many protections to fair housing law through the New York City Human Rights Law. So in New York City, it is illegal to be discriminated against in housing for many other aspects of who we are, our life experience, our families, including whether or not you have children, which is in fact a reason that people are discriminated against in housing, whether or not you're married, big one for us is how you pay the rent, lawful source of income. That's whether or not you use a rental voucher. You cannot discriminate in New York City against someone for trying to use a voucher. If they can pay the rent, you gotta take the voucher. But that does not happen. There's a lot of discrimination based on that, but this is an important foundation for us, this law. So the other half, this affirmatively furthering fair housing piece, is about kind of undoing the legacy of segregation and difference in opportunity based on the history of discrimination. And so we have something called a balanced approach to this, where we are trying to both make every neighborhood a great place to live. We call these place-based strategies, but also mobility strategies, which means if you would like to leave your neighborhood and go somewhere else, you should be able to do that. And in the history of this country, that has often not been true, particularly for people of color. In New York City, now we know there's also many reasons why people are pushed out or kept out of certain parts of the city, and we are trying to address that with our housing plan. So some people might say, but the federal government doesn't care about this. Why are you passing this law right now? Well, if you're not familiar, the first time we passed, published the Where We Live NYC, it was 2020. Similar federal situation. There was no federal mandate. The federal government didn't even want us to do it. But New York City at the time said, we care deeply about this, we're going to create this plan. Since then, the City Council of New York City has passed a local law called the Fair Housing Framework. So we now have a local mandate to publish 5-year fair housing. So we're now operating under that mandate. So essentially, New York City is committed to fair housing, regardless of what's going on in Washington, D.C. And, one question I got from Zach was about understanding the cycles. So have you all heard of the Fair Housing Framework? Yes. Okay. Some maybe not so much. So a law in 2023 that was passed, you definitely should be aware of this. It's going into effect immediately. So the first part of that law said that the city had to publish a fair housing plan Where We Live NYC due October 1st, 2025. We met the deadline, published it on October 1st. And the next fair housing plan we can do in 5 more years, so in 2030. The law also created 3 other reporting requirements, and these are brand new. These are due in 1 year. We have to publish a long-term housing needs assessment for the whole city, basically an assessment of how much housing does the city need. And then we have to create a 5-year target for new housing production for the whole city. So the city needs this much housing, the city needs to build this much housing, X amount of housing in the next 5 years. And then the city has the wonderful task of having to assign every community district a target of new housing to produce in the 5 years. Those are called city, community district and citywide production targets. So that's something you will all be hearing more about. And then there's a strategic equity framework also required. So basically, we're going to be very busy over the next year working on these reports, and they are very much related to the future of housing in your community district. So we will be engaging you all more on that. We've just been busy with the plan. So I'm going to pass it over to Miranda to talk about Where We Live.
So Where We Live, I'm sure you understand, is the fair housing, New York City's fair housing plan. We believe that every New Yorker should have a safe, stable, and affordable home. And to that end, we've developed a plan to confront segregation, fight housing discrimination, and take action to advance opportunity for all. These are like different parts of fair housing, discrimination and segregation and opportunity. The 2020 plan established 6 foundational goals that really ground the long-term work of addressing fair housing. And these goals remain, we've recommitted to these goals in 2025 with some tweaks based on our engagement. And again, this is long-term work. We don't resolve these issues overnight, so it's important to have these goals to ground our strategies and commitments. And I'm going to go through each goal just because I think there's a lot in each one. So the first goal is to fight housing discrimination and ensure equal access to housing. The second, build more housing in all neighborhoods across the New York City region. Protect existing affordable housing and prevent displacement. Goal 4, ensure access to different types of neighborhoods for tenants using housing vouchers. Goal 5, expand and improve housing options and accommodations for people with disabilities. And goal 6, improve conditions, services, and infrastructure in historically disinvested neighborhoods. So you can see within these goals, we're looking at the unique conditions in New York and doing both place-based and mobility-based strategies. The work of Where We Live is very broad. Some of the commitments and strategies are more about policy and legislative action, and some of them are about programs administered by HPD and other agencies. So some of the wins that we're most excited about since 2020 include legislative victories such as the City of Yes, which allowing a little more housing in every neighborhood, equitable development, and historically, like advancing equitable development, as well as confronting discrimination, expanding protections against discrimination for New Yorkers who had interactions with the criminal justice system, and a programmatic intervention as we've expanded our Partners in Preservation program, which we actually administer at the Office of Neighborhood Strategies, where we work at HPD, which provides funding for tenant organizers to organize rent stabilized tenants. And then we've also other big wins, relocation support for Section 8 participants who have emergency housing needs, as well as help for older adults seeking accessible housing, prioritizing those adults who are in inaccessible housing for senior subsidized housing. And also something like Goal 6, equitable investment in historically disinvested communities, where we just released this week actually. And our team is also working on this project, the Jewel Streets Neighborhood Plan, which is a plan to bring in investment to a neighborhood that's been overlooked for many decades. So these are some of our big wins from 2020, and we're building on the implementation of the 2020 plan, and we just released this 2025 plan. So we have the plan that was released on October 1st, and it comes with 20 strategies that have over 60 commitments by strategy, and these are organized by goal. And these are strategies that we're working on and plan to implement in collaboration with many different agencies and other collaborators. And we also have a part of this plan is over 80 data visualizations. We're hoping that these will help New Yorkers understand the issues that we're confronting in fair housing. And we've also released 5 population profiles. These are reports that look more deeply at the fair housing issues and housing issues generally confronted by specific populations, children, older adults, immigrants, people with disabilities, and people with different partnership statuses. So really interesting reports. I encourage you all to check them out on our website. And how did we get to this 2025 plan? The plan comes out of the 5 years of action that came from the 2025 plan, and that plan, the 2020 plan, and the 2020 plan came out of years of engagement and research. So building on that, we've conducted additional public engagement with stakeholders, updated data analysis, and our continued partnerships with government agencies and actors. And this has produced the final plan that we just released and will lead to implementation over the next 5 years. So the 2020 plan was really based on some very intensive engagement, really working to understand how New Yorkers understand fair housing issues. And this, for the 2025 plan, we really wanted to meet New Yorkers in their neighborhoods and understand some of the more contemporary conditions that they're facing, and to sort of understand, ensure that our strategies are aligned with what New Yorkers are experiencing now. So we conducted a library campaign, which lasted over 6 weeks at 21 libraries, including at the New Amsterdam Library around here. Public workshops this past summer. We also spoke to many stakeholders in one-on-one interviews, and we accepted feedback on our draft plan through briefings and office hours and a feedback forum. And we also released a youth-led documentary produced by a youth-led nonprofit, which we hope will help people understand the issues of fair housing in New York. We talked to three different New Yorkers, I think, or four, who all are experiencing like very distinct fair housing issues. So definitely encourage you to view that documentary. We have a QR code at the end of the presentation. And this is like an image of our public workshop at Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn. This is more intensive engagement. We asked members to really engage with some of the policies that we're looking at. And then this is an example of like a card that we collected at one of the libraries. This is more like accessible way for New Yorkers to engage. We just asked them to tell us their story, and from that we got some really valuable insights. And some of the key takeaways, a lot of the issues are still the same issues we identified in 2020 are still here, and some even magnified. So housing discrimination persists. More affordable housing is needed in more neighborhoods. Renters and homeowners face displacement pressures. Voucher holders face barriers to securing housing. People with disabilities face barriers to securing accessible housing. And neighborhoods impacted by segregation and disinvestment need more support. So a lot of these are not super surprising, unfortunately, but they are important. It's important for us to see our policies reflected in people's experiences. So we also conducted data analysis to understand like what are some of the issues that we're looking at today. These are fair housing is, again, it's like the long work, so we're not expecting to see like major changes in the data, but we want to track data over time and like understand sort of like help people in distinct communities understand where they are on the map, literally through data visualizations. And then also the population profiles that I mentioned, these like more in-depth research projects help understand distinct demographic issues by demographic. We also want to make sure that people have access to a lot of the data that we're collecting. So the New York City Housing and Vacancy Surveys, survey that's administered by HPD every 3 or so years. And while this is like publicly available data, we want to make sure that people are able to like really access and visualize some of the issues. So this is now available on the HPD website. And you can play around with it and understand like how things like age and like housing tenure interact. So also again, I encourage you to visit our website, check it out.
Do you have anything very, very specific tailoring for CV1? And I ask that only because
We're
if I look at
limited
it
in time.
very carefully, it looks like we are listed as a mostly non-residential area.
What do you mean?
Oh, I was looking at the map.
What the color?
No, go back one more. There was another map that was towards the right, so maybe it was ahead.
That's the same page. Go for it. There you go on the wrong one. Sorry.
What does it say?
Forward.
There was a,
It was one blue.
there was a blue map to the right.
So,
Yeah.
but still look. It's white.
That
Oh, it's just, it's marked, like, we go back
That,
on the legend, it just says non-resident, but that's gray, not white.
well, it had.
the one that they just had
It says non-residential area.
What we're looking at right now is a heat vulnerability index map going from 1 to 5. So the white is a 1, and there's a gray areas are like JFK and, Prospect Park. Those are the non-residential areas.
No, but can you go to the next
The
one?
next one is a race dot map. So this is showing population by race across the city. So each dot represents 100 New Yorkers.
And if you look at the very tip of the island, it says we're a non-residential area, which I
Oh,
find.
no, sorry. I think there's just a map issue that the non-residential just refers to like JFK and the nature parks.
I saw the same one in the map before. It's okay. Don't go away.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're definitely leadership.
It's
so small, you can't.
Why, yeah, Green's Park is the battery.
Gotcha.
It might also just be that there's a lower population density, so 100 New York.
It's so
There are fewer
small,
dots.
like that. There's no green on there.
Black folks. Do you have any other specific questions? Do you want us to like move our presentation along to?
Let's move along. I am hoping that you still have CB1 targeting information.
Yes,
That's
so,
represented.
yeah, so because the Fair Housing Plan is a citywide plan, all of the maps include the whole city. And so the plan itself does not dive into any specific community district. But the community districts can be sort of understood by looking at a variety of maps and data, so we didn't pull anything out for this conversation. If there's specific housing data points you'd like, we have the absolute
That
ability.
was what I asked for, that I had hoped for, was absolutely specific for CB1, because where we don't see the city of Yes having definite improvements for Community Board 1 in a robust manner in any way, because it consistently at any opportunity builds 80-20. So we're not actually, we went from a place that we had waiting lists at schools, right, at the three, robust building of brand new 3 public schools. And then as soon as the 421A housing started disappearing, you can track at the same time the reduction in the kids in schools. COVID being a factor and everything else, but we were at a point that we had enough seats to house 140 migrant children in our schools, which is unprecedented. But it was also in line with the loss of affordable housing and stabilized housing.
Yeah.
So when we're looking, we have fair housing concerns and housing concerns, our concerns overall are the city's impetus to build 80-20 and nothing really in between to stabilize schools and retail and storefronts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can, so happy to talk more about that. That's not, that specific housing policy question is not sort of the focus of Where We Live 2025, so we just wanted to make sure you all know about this larger plan, and resources, because it's also very important. We think for every community district to be understanding all the citywide trends, to understand how, policies that may not be super effective in your area might be having an important impact elsewhere in the city. So that can also be an important part of the conversation that is missed out when we zoom in on individual neighborhoods. But yeah, if we're not meeting the needs, happy to come back. We have a whole affordable housing training. This is the fair housing training, so we're talking more about these issues of discrimination, segregation, and how we're trying to tackle those issues. When we talk about how we build affordable housing and what the tools are, I can talk a little bit about that, but we have a separate kind of presentation and training on that, that we're happy to bring back, as well as,
But given that, I have a question, you can probably guess what it is. That would be the citywide issue, and that's for people with disabilities. I hate when that's done, mostly because taking somebody with a learning disability has very different needs than somebody who's blind, and somebody who's deaf, and somebody has a wheelchair, and somebody's on a respirator. Needs very different in the kind of, not only location, but the space you need. I worked for years before I joined the club. And I saw lots of people living on 4th floor walk-ups in a wheelchair. That didn't do much good. I mean, we were relegating them to never leaving again. Their concerns then become, how do ambulances even come in to give them any aid when it's sometimes so difficult? My question is, do you keep lumping all these disabled groups together, which becomes pretty meaningless?
do you mean in terms of thinking about the policy or the data?
Policy, I mean, everything.
Okay, so
But
yeah,
you're
so.
not saying X% are still needing, you're lumping them all together, which group is getting all the benefits and which groups may be completely being left behind?
Yeah.
And what else?
No, I mean, it's a really important point and absolutely something that we heard from disability rights groups when we did engagement for this plan. And there are commitments in the plan that specifically speak to this point, that we are trying to target and understand the housing needs of people with physical disabilities, mobility disabilities, as well as, the wide range of other disabilities. And when it comes to, an example of the implementation of that, Housing Connect, many things to be upset about, absolutely an imperfect system, but there are set asides in the vast majority of rental buildings built through HPD financing for people with hearing and vision disabilities, and separate set aside for people with mobility issues. So, I mean, that's just one acknowledgement. There's not a separate set aside for people with intellectual disabilities, but when it comes to housing needs that are unique to people based on hearing, visual, or mobility disabilities, that is something that it's absolutely considered. So we are mindful that in a lot of the data and conversation, people with disabilities who are a very diverse group can be lumped together, and we're trying to take that and tease that out.
Is that being looked at too with new construction, when there's a set aside? For
New construction.
percent, when there's a new building being built, there's often a percent that's set aside for affordable housing. But I've never heard, is there a set aside for people with different kinds of disabilities that so that different units might come on? to
Yeah.
Accommodate them, that those groups are very hard to place anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, we could go on Housing Connect right now and pull up a building and you would see 2% set aside for people with visual or hearing disabilities and 5% set aside for mobility disabilities. And that would also include, I mean, you would have to be enough units, right? Affordable units for those set asides to kick in. If it's only a 5-unit building, it's not gonna apply. But it does, yes, apply to new construction.
And mobility doesn't mean you use a cane.
I don't know the specific ways that
That's
it's,
typically what it is.
that's typically what it is.
That's typically what it is. So if you have a wheelchair, the doors aren't wide enough, the bathrooms.
No, I mean, the design standards are for, 36-inch wide doors. No, it's definitely, accessible housing standards, assuming people with mobility issues that need equipment. I mean, if you used a cane, perhaps you would be eligible for the set aside. I don't know how they screen people to need the set aside, but the design criteria are definitely accessible to people that use a wheelchair. I mean, if it's useful, we can just quickly run through the rest of this, or we can, just move into discussion if this is not of
Let's keep
interest to
going.
folks.
Thank you, Betty. Let's keep going for a little bit and then we'll see what.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate apologies if this is not the expectation. I think that the hope is that, this framing is very important for us at HPD. It's a kind of a shift in how the city is thinking about housing. The first plan was just in 2020. We're trying to have a more proactive approach to addressing fair housing, and it does take a kind of citywide analysis of what the issues are. And just want to make sure everyone's clear on what those are.
So, some of the other insights that we have from the data and from engagement, you may be aware, but right now the city has a vacancy rate of 1.4%. And that rate is even lower for, more affordable apartments at the lowest price point.
No, it's the security guard.
Oh, but yeah.
No.
Sorry, I'm hearing noises around me. Keep going. I apologize.
Yeah, no, and only 53% of new housing choice voucher recipients were able to successfully use their rental assistance to lease a home in 2022. And this indicates the market is so tight, it's not surprising for any of us, the market is so tight that tenant choice and power is very, very limited. We also are noting very unequal housing availability across the city, and persistent unequal outcomes that reflect long-term dynamics. So here you can see unequal outcomes. This is a map of asthma emergency department visits, so childhood asthma rates in 2023. Very unequal distribution of this unfortunate outcome. And as well as unequal housing production. A lot of neighborhoods are really bearing the brunt of housing production. And these are the same neighborhoods that have also have had to deal with disinvestment for decades. And then we also are trying to engage with some other difficult contemporary issues, including rising operating costs for multifamily housing, shrinking federal enforcement of fair housing, climate change, and persistent quality of life challenges in certain neighborhoods. So we're trying to incorporate a lot of really contemporary conditions into our policies. And I think this is probably, I want to make sure that we cover some of our 2025 commitments. So the plan is organized by goal, the 6 foundational goals, and then each goal has strategies to address each goal, and then specific commitments that are programs, legislation. So there are over 60 commitments within the plan. These are just a couple that we wanted to call out. So for goal 1, which is relates to housing discrimination, we're trying to expand pair testing investigations to identify illegal discrimination. For goal 2, build more housing in all neighborhoods across New York. We wanted to highlight as a part of this goal, we want to be training community boards and other civic organizations on the city's responsibility to affirmatively further fair housing because of the community board's role in the land use review process. Goal 3, we want to launch the city's voluntary housing mobility program in areas prone to severe flooding. Again, we're excited about the Jewel Streets plan that just came out, where we'll be piloting this program. For goal 4, we're going to fight for continued and expanded access to Section 8 vouchers, responding to the threat from the federal government. For goal 5, we want to identify solutions to make existing buildings more accessible for people with mobility disabilities. We have a lot of housing stock that is not accessible, and we want to be creative and figure out ways to be creative to make those buildings more accessible. And then goal 6, and this is something we're also excited about to implement on our team, leveraging HPD's resources to improve neighborhood conditions in areas where the city has made significant affordable housing investments. So those areas are the only areas of concentrated areas where we're going to be piloting this program. And then we'll talk about next steps.
So, seems like some additional trainings may be our next step. Just wanted to make sure you all have the website. I know this could be potentially boring, but our website is pretty amazing. And it does have the HVS, the Housing and Vacancy Survey Explorer. If you're interested in data, you want to understand the housing experience for people with disabilities and how that relates to immigration status, for example, it's a really exciting data tool online. So please check out the plan and see how your community district sort of fits into the larger citywide story on these issues. And then if there is a desire to dive deeper on how fair housing might play out at the community board and as policy around the city, we'd love to come back and do a deep dive on fair housing, but also make things able to do an affordable housing for everyone, which is our way of sharing
Yeah, we can.
what affordable housing is. It's very complicated, a lot of different definitions. We use a pretty specific definition. I think it's helpful for bringing the conversation and understanding, some of the housing programs you were speaking to, and how affordable housing gets built. I think there's a lot of desire in a lot of community districts to build more affordable housing. I think understanding the tools we use to do that, and how the city and the state and the private sector are collaborating to make that happen, can be very empowering. And then also, if you, as a community board, want to offer housing resources to people in the district, we get that request a lot. We have a whole team that does tenant owner engagement and resource events, so people can get kind of one-on-one, like if you're having issues with a landlord, you're having issues with a co-op, kind of individualized housing support. So happy to connect you all with any of those things. And watch the documentary.
Our last slide.
And happy to have any more discussion. And to those that just walked in, I'm Renee and this is Miranda with HPD.
Thanks, just a quick question, you bring up the Jewel Street, maybe I missed it, what is it? I know it's Street Brooklyn, but is that?
No, it's actually interesting. There is a street in Brooklyn called the Jewel Street,
Right.
and it is confusing. There is an area on the border of Brooklyn and Queens that has been historically called the Hole.
Oh, the whole, okay.
And it's called the Jewel Streets because the streets are called Amber, Ruby, Emerald, and Sapphire Street. And those 4 streets go north-south in this area that was a historic creek bed. And it is below grade, 10 to 15 feet below grade, and there are no sewers. So this kind of 12-block area, yeah, it's very bad. No sewers. The people who live there are a few people who've sort of made it work with septic systems. The flooding is really bad, and the city has for decades really just thrown their hands up and said, we don't know what to do. It's going to cost too much money. It's a very engineeringly challenging problem, but we're very proud that our team and partnered with DEP and for literally 2 years has been working with the neighborhood there to figure out a engineering solution, but also a housing mobility, which is basically a buyout for people who will need to relocate or want to relocate because again, housing conditions are just very bad there.
Yeah, I went with just with AKA.
AKA as a whole? Oh, really? Everyone knows the whole.
Well, I don't know, like, some people,
Well, the neighborhoods wanted to rebrand it. They didn't like being called as the
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Anybody
built the housing and then the creek happened, I'm not quite
No, I
understanding.
mean, historically, it was all wetland, right? It's
Uh-huh.
like on the Jamaica Bay. And then a highway was built, and then the land got built up, just with urbanization, like so much of the coastline of New York City. And there's just these 12 blocks that never really got filled in as much as the others. And so then the streets got built up higher and higher around them, and these 12 blocks just stay very low. And they also happen to be really it was a wetland, but there was like probably a creek that really ran through that specific location. So there's a lot more groundwater, and it's just been a more challenging place to go. Check out the Jewel Streets neighborhood plan, it was published yesterday, check it out.
anybody else have any
But this
questions?
is 1800s or something.
I'm gonna,
More like.
I'm gonna propose that they come back with specific information for community board one, and at that point, we do a resolution on housing opportunity.
Do you
And I'd like
want
the approval.
to address affordable housing
Yeah, I was gonna
as
say.
well? That might be a different team. Sounds
I
like.
want that to.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, it would be an affordable housing 101. I would love to hear a little bit more about this, the kind of, when you say community district specific information, what kind of information are you
Well,
seeing?
what do you call affordable housing?
Great, let's get into it. So when we talk about affordable housing, there are.
We can wait, we don't have to do that,
Yeah.
but those are issues for people.
The quickest way to say is that when HPD finances housing, it's income restricted
I know.
and rent stabilized.
Yeah.
So that's what we need.
So, but the question becomes, for what the community board's been asking for, when you come and you present on that topic, you can go to quality of life. You could come here, wherever, we're invested in having you come and talk to us, so we'll be flexible where you end up.
That's great.
Income restricted tends to be a problem because that means, quite frankly, that there are lots of families that like don't fit in that model because they're just over that line and so when we're thinking of what we've been looking for, we're not necessarily looking for 80-20 housing with the really defined, very tight income restrictions. There have been buildings that were built up to 120, 130 AMI, right, around, they're just not being built here.
And you want the 130%.
We want a diversity, yeah,
I mean, the
and
AMI.
not 20% of diversity, like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at so we often get the opposite concern that the AMIs are too high. Because if you look at 80% AMI today, you might be surprised at what the income level is of that, because it has gone up a lot. In the last 10 years, it has almost doubled. So it used to be that 80% AMI was like $50,000-$60,000. It's now about $100,000.
we understand that, but you're still not gonna be able to afford the grocery store from here, if you're a family of 5 of them. And that's like where we're trying to find.
Even a family of 3.
Yeah, you're trying to find the nexus where we can't even keep a crossing guard in Lower Manhattan because it's too expensive for them, for their pay rate, to even go to a coffee cart. Right, we've had crossing guards come down from Chinatown and then leave, they're like, we can't stay down here, it's too expensive, there's no food that we can afford. So it's not like, that's why you need a diversity of housing, because you can't build housing and then have no place for people to shop. There are places to shop, but the people can't afford to shop there, so we're
Looking
looking.
the market rate housing is not, because usually typically when we're investing in affordable housing, we're trying to invest in.
Market rate housing has done nothing but go up in this neighborhood. We have added thousands, over 10,000 units of market rate housing, and the price has not gone down. The price continues to rise. There's been no stabilization of the market anywhere down here. And we can talk a long time about that, about how that looked and everything from a post 9/11. But we've experienced the decimation, the rebuilding, and where we are. So trickle down housing has not worked in our community.
Yeah.
So we would love to have you come and have a more expansive discussion because it's not getting better and there's no plans for it to be better either.
Got it. And the goal is rent stabilized housing at a higher, for a higher income.
And a diverse, socioeconomically diverse housing that attracts and retains people. Yes.
All right, we
Jeff.
I could elaborate slightly on that. It's that the way a lot of us see housing being developed in New York City is that although there certainly is not enough classical affordable housing, there is at least a series of programs designed to create that housing. And then at the other end, as Tammy was saying, the market housing, market rate housing, at least as we see down here, is incredibly expensive, that unless you earn $300,000-400,000, you can't live in that housing because it's that expensive. And there's nothing being built for anybody in between. And so as we see, I mean, we see it from our perspective, and we may be reflecting it on other parts of the city where it doesn't exist, but I imagine there are similar issues, particularly in Manhattan, elsewhere, is that if you somehow luck out in Housing Connect and you have the right income levels, maybe you can find a place to live. Although I have to say from some of the units I've seen, they're not really places to live. They are places.
Stores.
That, you know, they're incredibly tiny, not even that. Or if you're incredibly wealthy, you can live here. But if you're part of the middle class, there's just no place to live unless you happen to have already had a rent stabilized apartment that's not going away. And so that's a demographic that's not really being looked at very carefully, but it's
And aging in place.
aging.
And when you combine those two and you look at the history of Lower Manhattan, where we weren't a very resident rich neighborhood to start with, but we were a very socioeconomically diverse residential population, which grew. And then once it got, you know, like everything else, post 9/11, they built it so well, and then we built new schools, then the gentrification came, and now we're on the downside of that. And we don't want to end up being a neighborhood, which many parts of CB1 are already this way, where some of the buildings are just 70% occupied because they're all luxury, and they're either pet-a-terres or corporate apartments or whatever the case may be. That's not helping our street life, that's not helping businesses, it's not helping restaurants, it's not helping, you know, you will never at that point get the grocery stores to lower the pricing because they have to cater to the market that's the 20% market. Because there's not enough. Right.
Yeah, commercial real estate rates.
So, you know, we look at it from a very different perspective. But we are a great example of what the current programs are turning other areas uptown in. Like, I use it as a warning for my colleagues in CBs 9, 10, 11, and 12 as to what this will look like 15, 20 years later, because we are that far away from when they built up.
But also we've lost all of our amenities because they can't afford to be here. I've lived here almost 50 years. I had a place to make keys, I had a hardware store, the dry cleaners, all those things are gone because they can't afford to.
The shoe shine guy is probably the one that I noticed the
Oh, yeah.
most. You know, a place where you get your shoes resold or, you know, getting like that kind of a.
Small local retail.
Right.
Yeah, it's really challenging when you have very, very high real estate prices.
And again, we've added thousands of units. There's no trickle down.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the units in this district that have been added recently have been, yeah, in a very different tier of.
So we welcome you to come back as soon as you can. We have our quality of life meeting in November, in December, any of those dates work. You want to come to an exec meeting, we'll make it work for you because we are desperate to have ideas. I don't know if HPD is it. I don't know if we need to bring in the banking institutions to talk about incentive programs that diversify housing, because that does seem to be, you know, State Senator Kavanaugh, I've had a conversation about, I'm looking at other programs in other states that are out there that maybe could be advocated, but the city could do those as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're not looking for information about what exists, you're looking for, you know, trying to problem solve a very specific niche problem based on the market conditions here, the existing built environment, so.
So far, nothing that exists
It's not-
has helped us.
Right, but not me.
We're not niche.
We're not me.
I mean, I just.
You
think
hear us all react. We're not me.
people like being unique. I'm just saying, you know, neighborhoods have their own unique history. I think being where you are in Lower Manhattan.
CB two and three and seeing the same trend.
I mean,
So-
there are just different existing housing conditions and, I mean, yeah, apologies, I did.
No, no,
not
it's
mean to
okay.
suggest.
We're just testing.
Way out there. It's hard, life is hard, Mr. Cohen.
Connect with Zach.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to be responsive though, and I think it's gonna take a little more thinking, to figure out who the right people are to be helpful with trying to come up with some ideas. I mean, it sounds like, you know, it's a complicated nexus, right? You're trying to figure out where property is potentially to build housing, the right programs that exist, or maybe don't exist, and creating new programs and then financing that project. So it's not something I have a presentation on. If there were, you know, you're interested in some, help us do some
We have a
research.
small group of people who are working on this group. If you wanted to set up meetings between now and maybe coming back in January, if you think that's what you need, we'd be happy for that because this dialogue does not go away. We've been having it for 6 years here.
Yeah. And have you been talking with anybody else at HPD?
Nobody really thinks that we have a problem because all we hear about in the last, was city of yes, this is great, it's gonna solve all your problems. We know that doesn't work. On occasion, I used to call Lucian and yell at Lucian. So, we'd love to partner to get, because no matter what elections come and elections go, there's nothing to solve the problem here. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and affordability is non-existent.
Yeah.
It'd be it's not, and it's not like we are niche, because we see the same problems happening in two,
No, I mean, if
we
we're
see it happening in
three,
three,
absolutely everywhere.
we see it spreading, and Manhattan is gonna be the have and have-nots. And you can cheer for 12 units here, 30 units here, 100 units, but you know there's a problem when there's over 20,000 applications for 300 units.
Yeah, no, we're absolutely.
And that was what happened at 25 Water.
We're very aligned on that. I mean, I think it's why building more housing is the second goal of the plan. It has to happen everywhere. It really needs to be happening everywhere, though, in the city. I think as we try to show on that map, part of our problem is that while there has been a lot of development in the last 15 years, it just has not been enough. I mean, there's a national housing shortage, where it's particularly acute in New York City, and part of that is zoning, part of that is a lot of resistance to new development.
Come back to us in January. We'd be happy if you want to have a separate meeting, we have 3 or 4 people who sit on a housing task force, we're happy to do that with you, just let us know.
Don't we have a lot of empty office space? I'm just wondering if that could be looked at in terms of retrofitting those.
Yes, absolutely.
Got A lot of structures already.
But it's
Yeah.
never affordable when they retrofit.
But there are programs that we actually have a tax credit code for 67M, where we're trying to partner with, office building owners to convert them to housing. It's extremely expensive to do that. So it's very hard to make those deeply affordable and stabilized, but I think they're actively trying to work on that and figure out what the right balance is of how much of that value to try to capture from the developer while not disincentivizing the conversion and keeping it.
I'll just put it this way, the city administrator chose, if they would like to sell 100 gold for the highest amount possible, and offsite HPD to potentially another borough, right, which does not work for us, because we would like you to stay, we don't want to lose city, we don't want to lose senior center, we don't want to lose the employees that work at the
I
senior
think
center.
the senior center is staying at 100 gold. I think that's part of the.
Today.
Today,
No, of course, I'm just saying, I think
But, I
that is,
mean,
that is the.
losing agencies, losing business, when you can build a building that has all of it, does not seem incongruous to me, so, it seems same. But
Okay.
let us know if you seriously, you're
Yeah.
willing to work on a task force with people to create ideas and do stuff.
Yeah,
We'd be happy
we'll,
to.
we'll talk. I think there might be some colleagues who are also more equipped on the kind of policy side of this, because it does seem like you're trying to develop new policy ideas. So we'll think about it, but stay in touch if you don't mind just reaching back out.
I don't, I'm just looking, there's a protest outside, I'm like,
A lot of the college pace has been gobbling up a lot of buildings, making them like, there's so many so many
You're not
buildings.
shopping at the, I do go to the local hardware on Fulton Street though. That is, you into that one?
Yep.
That one's still around. I love
Let's
that.
move on.
Okay,
Let's
thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, we really appreciate it.
It's very nice to meet you.
We, if you think you need time to gather CB1 specific data to January, absolutely, but know that we're not gonna go away and
You're
we're
not
gonna
ready to
go.
go. Like, the more specific you can be, the more helpful it is us, because there is a lot of data that can be District 1 that we could start to
Great.
pull.
You pull everything for District 1 where the maximum amount of affordable housing could be built. In whatever zoning area you think, in whatever anything, east to west, south of the canal, just take a look and tell us.
So you wanna have a land, I mean, that also could be something part of city plan.
Build or develop, as you guys have said.
We'll take it offline.
Yeah.
Connor, we'll have Connor help us with this as well. Sorry, Connor, I just threw you under the bus there.
Poor Connor, he's got the front under the bus.
You're used to it, right?
No problem, no problem. All right.
Thank you, thank you.
Connor.
Connor is
you want
used to
your
it.
slides?
Three in them.
There you go. All right, Connor, you're on, my friend.
Okay.
What's Bellevue? Why is it 2 through 5, Connor, instead of 1 though?
There's one is the state program.
Yeah.
Which one's first?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Actually, I'd love for you to sit there so you're on camera.
Yeah, I'll sit, yeah.
Absolutely, thank you.
I'll start. Okay, hi, everybody. I'm Connor, from Christopher Marquis' office. Nice to see everybody. I'll be talking about the charter revision proposals and trying to just bring people up to speed on what's being proposed and some of the issues and concerns that have been raised. I think it's difficult to tell you how to vote because of, I don't think that's our role and there's some conflict there, but we're then able to bring some concerns and just give you all the information that we have. I have some, we have a memo that kind of breaks down some details. It's a little bit more specific and technical, but we also have this flyer that the council as a body created that you can, look at yourself and an office and distribute that tries to in one small palm card explain why these are bad. But I think they do a pretty good job, but I'll try to cover some of the issues that we've been having and answer any questions. So the Charter Revision Commission was assembled by Mayor Adams. He's done it a number of times already, but this is the most recent and I guess final iteration of it. And we knew that he was targeting land use and the council's oversight of land use through the Bueller process. But now it's coming in November, it'll be under the back of your ballot when you vote for different elected positions as well. And there are 3 proposals specifically that target the uniform land use review procedure and council's role in land use. And those are 2 through 4. So it gets a bit confusing because it started out as 1 through 3, but now there is also a state amendment that's on the ballot as well. And so that one went first, so now it's 2 through 4, but the state one has to do with land that they're changing in the Adirondacks. I'm not gonna say I know as much about that. 2 through 4 are the ones that I'm gonna be talking about, and then 5 and 6 are a change. One is to consolidate the role or the sort of stewardship of the official city map under the Department of City Planning. Right now, it's split by all 5 borough presidents. They all have jurisdiction over the official map of their borough. And when you change those things like grade or street, or just all these very technical changes that happen to maps, to that map, it goes through the borough president right now. They want to move that over to the Department of City Planning. They also want to make, I guess, give them the mandate to digitize it all, because right now it's all stored away in map rooms. In this building, you have, in the borough president's office, you have a map room. I've never been in there, but it sounds cool. And then the sixth one, the last one, is to shift local election cycle to line up with the federal election cycle. So that when you vote for president, you'd also be voting for local positions like council and mayor and comptroller and everything. Right now, it's off kilter, right, by about a year.
All of it?
Yeah, I think it would all shift over. Everything local would just, and I think they argue that increases turnout because people are going out already because they want to vote for president. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not here to really speak about that one. I think people have concerns that it gets buried that way too. But I'm here to talk about the land use one. So that's 2 through 4. So starting with 2, 2 is actually broken up into 2 parts. I don't know why, they're a little bit distinct, but I'll try to go through it all. The first part of this is they're calling proposal 2 the affordable housing fast track. And the first part is to establish a new BSA special permit, so the Board of Standards and Appeals, which I think you all are familiar with, because those applications come to the community board already, but they're creating a new one that certain applications that would normally go through. Also, if I need to take, backtrack it all, let me know, but because there's a lot of acronyms and things involved, but instead of what, now they would have to go through the uniform land use review procedure, which is community board and then borough president and then the city planning commission and then the council, and the council can veto, and that's the council's power in land use decisions. Instead of doing that, these projects could just go straight to the Board of Standards and Appeals, which is an all-appointed board by the mayor. And they could approve through a permit any zoning changes that we know of, like, right, these things are not specified in the ballot proposals. Could be any zoning change to facilitate a project that meets the criteria for this fast track. And the criteria is quite vague. It says, to qualify, it has to be a publicly financed affordable housing project. There's a lot of those, affordable housing projects involve public financing. And it would have to be designated as a housing development fund company or corporation. And or an HDFC. You might have heard of HDFC because there are these things called HDFC co-ops, which is a specific type of HDFC that is cooperatively owned. And it's usually a limited equity co-op. And it's a way of allowing cooperative homeownership for people who couldn't otherwise afford it. But really, a housing development fund company is just, it's a legal designation by the state that just accesses more financing. It's just a tool. It has city oversight. But none of this specifies how many units it has to are affordable, at what income levels, like the things we were just talking about, HPD, all those things that we care about, right? Like, we got what percentage, how much of it is it gonna be 100% affordable? Is it just one unit that's affordable? Like, none of this is really guaranteed as part of this proposal. So you could have theoretically a building that has 1 unit of affordable housing, whatever it takes to designate an HDFC and to get publicly financed affordable housing. And they could basically, if they could just go to the BSA instead of going through ULURP and go to the council. And to be clear, you only go to ULURP when you want to change the zoning. Like, there's underlying zoning on every property. Every property has a limit to how much they can build, what they can use it for. But when you want to change that, you want to go higher or bigger, you have to go through ULURP. So this is specifically giving a green light to projects that aren't even complying with their underlying zoning. They want to go bigger. And so the problem here is that we don't know what that application is going to be. They could want to build as big as is possible, right? And this could theoretically allow them to go to the BSA. So that's what's so dangerous about it. It's like, we don't know what that's going to look like. You can't predict what applications are going to go for this. And there might be a lot that don't qualify, but again, it's just a lot. We really can't predict how this would, what would be approved and what wouldn't. So some of the impact, I mean, the Board of Standards and Appeals, maybe you are familiar with this, I think is a bit of a notoriously opaque institution, right? There's technically a comment period from the community board, but they're not really taking a lot of feedback. They're not very community oriented or public facing.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. We looked into some of the data over the last 25 years. They've approved over 80% of the applications they've seen, and only about 5% have actually been rejected. And then there's an in-between of applications that have been withdrawn. So they kind of, it's almost like a fake step in a lot of ways. And there would be a community board comment period, but there would be no council oversight whatsoever. And like I said before, we really don't have a specific expectation of unit percentage for affordable, what the income levels would be. And the zoning changes, to what extent they want to change the zoning really does have a limit. So those are some of the dangers for this one. And then the second component of this proposal number 2, this is still proposal number 2, would create a different kind of fast track, an expedited ULURP, for projects that use mandatory inclusionary housing, like in mandatory MIH designated areas, which exists today. Basically in the 12 community boards in the city that are measured to produce the lowest number of affordable housing units in the last 5 years, they would be able to go through ULURP for their zoning change without council oversight. It would be an expedited process that would end with city planning and not go to the council like it normally does. And so this is basically establishing a different ULURP for affordable housing projects in these 12 community boards. And it's entirely based on how much affordable housing you built, like a sheer number, in the last 5 years. It doesn't take and so some of the issues we raise, it doesn't take into consideration things like population density, right? Some community districts are much less populated than others. So there's just less housing being built generally. Infrastructure capacity, right? Maybe there isn't a lot of new affordable housing because they don't have the capacity to withstand that kind of residential increase, or even just demand for building affordable housing in that community board, right? Like the community board and the council, we don't get to say affordable housing goes here, affordable housing goes here. It's all market driven, right? And we just sometimes get to approve it or not. And so to say that everyone has a fair shot, and the only reason that some community boards are not building a lot is because of the community board or the council, it's kind of misleading. And this is sort of it creates a two tracks, and it basically punishes you if you don't meet their quota. And the problem with that is, these are trends that are largely out of our control. This is if the market decides they don't want to build affordable housing in a district, then ULURP changes for that district. This is a map from city limits of the projected neighborhoods that would, in this first round, this kind of expedited process would apply to. So Community Board 1 narrowly missed it, right? CB2 even more narrowly missed it, but the ones that have that cross stitch are the ones that are the bottom 12 in terms of producing affordable housing. So it's a lot of Staten Island, South Brooklyn, parts of Queens, Upper West Side, First Side. But this would change every I guess year or 5 years, depending on how they measure the affordable housing production.
Connor, can I ask?
Yes.
The 2 proposals that are within proposal number 2, are
Yeah.
they going to appear on the ballot separately?
No, it's
Or is it so if you like one half of it, you gotta
no, yeah, I don't
take it or leave it?
know personally why these are within one. They feel very distinct to me.
Mhm.
But no, they're both under number 2. And again, none of this is explained in the ballot. The ballot has
Right.
one sentence
Yeah,
each. It's a
yeah.
question.
Right,
And the
with
questions.
a nice marketing tagline.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Like puppies and babies.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Okay.
So this is, those are the 2 sub proposals within proposal 2. Does anyone have any questions or things
No,
about that?
it's horrible. Go on. What else do I?
You said it. So proposal number 3, is something they're calling ULURP, which is another fast track. It's expedited land use review procedure, and this is, so if you think about proposal 2, about these fast tracks for affordable housing, this is a fast track just for modest changes. That's what they're calling it. It's not even about affordable housing, it's just about modest increases.
They describe with modesty.
Exactly, so that's.
What do you mean by modest?
You can see, I put modest in quotations, but just to say that this one isn't even about affordable housing. So, similarly to the second part of proposal number 2, it creates a fast track that involves the community board, the borough president, but then a final vote by the city planning commission and no vote by the council. It would be available to zoning, again, this is just changes to zoning. If you build a building that is within the zoning that already exists on your property, none of this matters. You build as, what's called as of right. You just have to go to the Department
Right.
of Buildings and get a permit. This is all for buildings that want to exceed their zoning. And so if you want to rezone your building and you want to upzone it, but you're not upzoning it by more than 30% in terms of residential density, then you can take this ELER instead of going through ELER, and so it doesn't go to the council. And then one that's more applicable in the outer boroughs is this 45-foot height cap. That's like if you're doing a rezoning, but it's still under 45 feet in height, but that's for much lower density districts, like obviously we have high density districts downtown. 45 feet feels like, you know, a cute little, like it's, yeah, you don't really see that here. Yeah, exactly.
Just calling.
Which have to do all the other things, like, you know, like, all those other studies.
Mhm.
All those other studies that we normally ask for, you know, light.
Well, so that's related here because part of, and that's the other requirement, so. It's, you can't go more than 30% in residential density, you can't or like sometimes it's about height. It also applies to acquisitions, dispositions, and city map changes. These are three things that are also subject to a form of ELER. That are not, like usually we're talking about height and bulk and use, but like anytime the city buys property or sells property or changes a lease even, like they're leasing property or they're leasing property to someone, that also goes through public review. But all of these things would now not have to come to the council whatsoever.
100 Gold Street.
Yeah, and so that's an example, but the other thing that is important to say is if it triggers an environmental impact statement, which is the large environmental review process that involves light and air and traffic and sewage and all these other things, then it wouldn't be able to do this. It has to be small enough that it doesn't trigger an EIS, but lots of things don't trigger an EIS. 100 Gold Street will probably trigger an EIS.
Probably.
But this is, but like, you know, people already try to find loopholes for EIS now. This is more of an incentive to do that. And there's lots of things that seem huge, but somehow aren't triggering an EIS. Like 2 parts of City of Yes didn't trigger an EIS, which is kind of insane, right? It's a citywide change.
So kind of like the section 197 leases that we see in the land use committee, we won't see those anymore?
If they have to do with affordable housing. So the acquisitions,
Okay.
dispositions, and city map changes, those ones have to somewhat relate to
So that
affordable
doesn't
housing.
apply like agency leasing?
I don't think it wouldn't apply to like, yeah, like DCLA is looking for a new office or something. Yeah, that would, I mean, you're seeing all of these in both ways.
Right.
It's just whether the council can reject it or not, or negotiate. So obviously, like, right, the whole reason that the council, this is so important is not just to say no, but to negotiate. It's a barter method. And so, like I said, like this modest isn't always modest, especially in high density districts. A 30% difference can mean like 20 or 30,000 square feet and something like, you know, 5 to 10 stories. In many cases, when the city wants to buy or sell or lease property, the council would not be involved. And 100 Gold in that way would be relevant here because it's about affordable housing, so they could say that they could bypass it. If they could also find a way to not do an EIS, then they would be able to just not come to the council whatsoever. So that's number 3. Does anyone have any questions about that?
So
Yeah.
this is, the second one is exactly what Patrick said, though. It's any time that the city, for example, let's use the building in Tribeca, that the city wanted to sell, and they came to us, we said, right,
Mhm.
they just wanted to sell it to the highest bidder and
Right.
not have any guarantees for
Right.
housing or anything else. That would not come to us then, that would
No,
not be
so-
allowed to go through.
So all of these will still come to the community board, but it's whether or not it comes to the council later.
Remember, the council is our backstop, right? That's right. Our council member helps us if we're really hostile to it. You have the city council.
Right, we're only advisory, so it doesn't really make a difference. City council is
Yes,
actually the
yes.
stop end.
Yes. Like you have your advisory role in all of these still, but it's just a matter of if anyone has a chance to stop it actually later. Like the council has been is the check and balance for development, right? And that's how this is chipping away. I have a final slide that kind of talks about the more broader concerns around them.
But if we at the community board advised that we were totally against it.
Yeah,
And the council had nothing to say.
yeah.
What?
It would
Would
just,
that carry?
it would just
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like,
It's
they give us your
spinning in the
feedback and they would
It's
just.
Department of City
They just
Planning
fly right
has
through.
the final say.
Yeah, the city planning commission would have the final.
But they don't have to listen to
No,
us.
Exactly.
Correct, whereas
Our council member generally listens to us.
it's basically like, it's like neutering the community to be something like Battery Park City, no offense intended to those of us who live there. But you don't have a vote in the things that go on, only the board decides, you can go and speak, but.
But why bother even, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
There's no,
There's
because
no elected representative.
The people with- yeah, the people with power in these situations are all gonna fall under the same party. It's all gonna be under the administration, right? Because BSA is all mayor appointed.
It's all
City
under the,
planning-
whoever is the mayor, and
Yeah.
whoever it may be, it shouldn't
And what
have, they
developers-
shouldn't have power
Sole control.
over
Right,
us.
and this is a charter change, right? It's not easy, you can't reverse this very easily. It's kind of permanent, right? Until there's another charter change.
Gotcha.
Okay, so the last one is the Land Use Appeals Board. And so what this means is those were ways of like going through different, like fast tracks, so you didn't have to do a full ULURP, but this is for full ULURP. Like, let's say you don't qualify for any of those things, you still have to do a full ULURP. Now that is also changing. So this is the,
Yeah.
so now where the council normally has a final say, that's no longer the case. Now that gets followed by an appeals board, which is made up of the mayor, the council speaker, and the borough president. And of the application, like relevant to the application. And only 2 of the 3 need to agree to overturn a council decision, and then it does. And then there's no opportunity for the council to then override that decision. Right now we have.
Yeah.
So it then strips the council of its power.
Why, it's going to.
We also essentially become advisory. And so these projects can include, also this has to somewhat relate to affordable housing. And again, that's super broad. That could be a neighborhood rezoning where they say that they're facilitating affordable housing development. It could be individual developments that have a few units of affordable housing. It just has to involve it in some way. And so that's kind of self-explanatory why that's problematic. They're like, a council member is supposed to represent their community. It's basically any independent body that's not following suit under the mayor would have little to no say over these projects. And some of these are the most contentious projects we see, like neighborhood rezonings. And they would pass a ULURP with virtually no substantive opposition. There would be no one who's not appointed by them who can actually stand up and say no. And so,
Well, that's not, I mean, the 3, you don't have the equivalent of your local council person, but this appeals board, mayor is 1, borough president's 2nd, and
Yeah.
3rd one, the speaker of the council.
right,
So
no, it's true, it's
more
true that it is.
distributed than the other 2 that you.
Yes, but I think in a lot of ways, when you're talking
But it's
about
your local
politics,
representation.
That's
of the
right,
local
it does that.
voice.
it does that. But also, it's not like they all have to agree either. You only need 2 of the 3. So if the
But
mayor,
only one of them's the mayor, but.
but I'm saying
No,
if the mayor is
I understand what you're
is
saying.
close with the borough president, is close with the speaker, which is often the case, they often, politic together. Then it doesn't really matter. It's essentially whoever controls the board controls the decisions, and I would doubt that each member of that board would want to be independent of the others and vote, and not, there would be so much politicking that would happen within the board that I think you can safely assume it would still fall under the immense pressure of the mayor. Technically, the city planning commission is not all appointed by the mayor, and they're supposed to be an independent commission, but like we see in practice, that doesn't really materialize.
Where did all these come from? Like, who proposed all these?
Yeah, so it's, and so just to say, this is the visual of what you have, what ULURP looks like now, where the council finishes. The mayor can technically veto, but then the council can't override with the 2/3 majority. There have been a couple of times where the mayor has actually vetoed on a land use decision, but it's very rare. And then the council has an override option, but that all gets replaced with this appeals board, with no override option. And this came, from, well, so the mayor created a charter revision commission, which he can do. He's already done it a number of times when we had ballot proposals earlier on in his, administration. But he can put whoever he wants on the board. They all, on the commissions, they all have these sort of input meetings and things, but they're people who represent certain special interests, and they're also allies of the mayor.
Yeah.
And so
Like developers.
we all sort of knew, what the purpose of this commission was before it started. So a lot of it was a bunch of kind of theatrics to get where we all knew we were going, which was to take away the council's role in land use. They are arguing that the council is, and specifically member deference, where people defer to the local council member, that these are the things that are stopping housing development from happening. And that, and so it's sort of, there's been a narrative created that
Yeah.
the issue with affordability is sheer supply, and that the council is the one standing in the way of massive supply influx. And so the way to do that is to change the council's role and to shift land use from an authority of the city council to an authority of the mayor. And so there's a clear goal in mind here, which is to just greenlight development. And so a lot of people think that that's the solution, or some people think that that's the solution. And I think that there's sort of, there's issues with some of the specifics of some of the proposals, but I think there's some larger concerns at play, which have to do with community representation, right? Local communities have traditionally had a say in development through the authority of their council member. That gets eroded, right? The input and the power to negotiate, that's always been the power, right? Council members don't want to just flat out reject things because then they can't negotiate. And usually the negotiations result in more affordability, better parks, better infrastructure, community services, all these things that come along with the project. And that all goes out the window. Also just like a theory of governance, right? Separation of powers. The city charter is supposed to reflect the federal government. Both are being eroded right now. And you're supposed to have checks and balances between different branches of government. The council is supposed to be able to check the mayor. And this is basically stripping the council of that ability to do that when it comes to land use. Right? The land use process is now starting and ending with the mayor. It's starting with the mayor and DCP, the Department of City Planning, with applications, and it's ending with either BSA, CPC, or this appeals board, which all arguably fall under heavy influence of the mayor. And then lastly, there's sort of a false narrative that I've kind of alluded to around what these, not only what are these intended to do, but what they will do, right? They're being pitched as proposals to increase affordable housing development, which we know is not true. Because in reality, like I mentioned, this just greenlights development, period, with no specifics on actually deepening the amount of affordable housing that's built, and requiring certain levels of affordability to be able to take these fast tracks. And like I mentioned, public benefits will take a hit, usually in the negotiation process, especially with larger neighborhood rezoning. You can fight for anything. Like, you can fight for any kind of investment from the city. And it oftentimes has nothing to do with the purposes of the rezoning, but that's the negotiation. And you lose out on the ability to get all these resources allocated to a neighborhood in exchange for the council member's vote. And that all kind of gets removed.
So I'm gonna say we are a community that has benefited from ULURP and from building negotiations with the city council. We have gotten new schools, we have gotten new parks, we have gotten a handicap accessible elevator, even though it was highly controversial. We've gotten many things that have come through from negotiations that came beyond the community board by our electeds, before and during the current council member. So,
Yeah, there's in a lot of these cases, there's no longer an incentive to do any more than what is minimally required under law, right? In terms of what 45X requires for affordable housing, or what you have to do when you take advantage of mandatory inclusionary housing. So, yeah.
Alrighty, this is not something that we vote on, this is something this was an educational,
Thank you, Rhonda.
presentation.
Very good job.
If anybody wants a copy of it, we're happy to share it, we have the
Yeah.
slide.
Yeah, I just have a couple of copies, and people can always reach out for more.
I
You can
want
always
some
request more of
slides.
these printed.
Yeah, I want the lunch.
Also just say, can I say something?
Yes.
There is another side to it that's where you're standing, but I would say that the Berman Center had done this panel, right, that talked a lot about the other side, if you're interested. That's an important thing to recognize for the community at large. There are other things that are playing here.
Yes, yeah.
And, you know, I think Connie, you did a fabulous job, and one of the most difficult things to present.
Right.
I've seen a few of these, but there are many groups, also the preservation groups have done these panels, City Club, Furman Center. Anyway, there's plenty out there to look at all sides, and also, you know, more in depth as 6 and 5 and 1.
Sure.
The 6 is really interesting in terms of, do you really want that you have an election at the same time as the federal, because the arguments are both ways, you know, it's convenient, but then of course no one pays attention to anything locally.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. to
Yeah,
look at.
I think
Anyway.
we want to encourage people to
Yeah.
reach out and just learn as much as you can. We're not trying to tell you how to think about it, but the problem here is a lack of education, I think, that people don't know what's coming on the ballot.
Big bets for her.
And so we want to, like, if you agree with it, you should vote for it, but you should know what you're voting for.
People don't even know what it is.
Sure, yeah, and we can always request more printed at our office, so if the community board wants more, we can send an email, yeah. Yeah, no, please, I just brought this stack, you can always reach out for me.
Do you have copies of the memo
Yes.
there too?
Yeah, here's a copy of the memo. Yeah, more right now. Exactly, yeah.
Let's, I'm gonna flip it up because I know the budget's gonna take a little bit longer for questions and things like that, so let's knock out some really quick things. Patrick, can you do Robert rules, bylaws?
Thank you, Connor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
You all have
Very
a-
Incredible work, yeah. That's fine.
Alright, so if you can queue up Patrick, the one slide for Patrick. I'll find it, in the meanwhile, while we're finding this. Pardon?
Why does come up?
There's been a lot of conversation at full board meeting. We've done a really good job in the last couple months of ending by 9:30. And part of that has been,
The limit.
to limit debate, right? We don't want to squash dialogue, but a lot of the conversation happens at committee. And the goal is that people who are really interested in topics should go to the committees. That's where we try and urge the public to go. When the public can't go to committees, they come to full board. It's all good, but what we don't want is, and I will be really rough. There is no, well, you're a this and you're a that, and I don't like when you this and I don't like when you that, or you just have to agree with the committee chair. That's not the way that the boards run. That's not at all the way it's supposed to go. You can make a motion to limit debate. Right? Now, we can go over Robert's rules, but Robert's rules are a guideline. We do not hold to them. Our bylaws supersede Robert's rules. And it is the chair's responsibility to engage where we go. That is the city charter way. Okay. Most days, we go by what the parliamentarians say in the room, because I think that's a fair way to go. For motion to limit debate, Patrick, let me get that up for you. This is something we'd like to use more often.
Where did this come? This comes from us.
This is from
Yeah,
Mr. Cannell.
I created this because this has been kind of a recurring issue, let's say.
Yep.
And Tammy's right. So let's start at sort of basic, which is our bylaws control really everything, right? That's sort of the constitution of the organization, if you will. But in any deliberative body, Robert's Rules of Order are a great guide. a lot of people will try to use Robert's Rules of Order as sort of a cudgel to either to wiggle around in ways that they want the debate to go, or to, for example, tell the chair they're not doing a great job in moving the discussion along. And that's really not the purpose of it. Robert's Rules of Order for a deliberative body is meant to be a guide. Again, our rules are the bylaws. And at the end of the day, even Robert's Rules of Order recognize that the chair is the ultimate arbiter of the meeting. Whether it's your committee meetings or the full board meeting, the chair is in control.
Yeah.
So, what's come up lately is, the notion of debates that have gone on, too long on certain motions. And certain resolutions, frankly, that take us too late into the night. So what you can do with a motion to limit debate is two things. You can either set the period of time, the total period of time for debate, or the number of speakers. And to do that, you raise your hand and you'd say, Madam Chair, I move to limit debate on the resolution to a total of, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it may be. That motion can be made at any time during the debate. So think about, if this is going to be a contentious land use issue that's going to take a half an hour, transportation resolution, for example, where we know there's a lot of contention, you might want to employ that motion to limit debate at the beginning. Our former secretary used to do that when he was with us. You might also realize that something has either gone off the rails or is going on too long, or we're really way off the topic. You can use the motion to limit debate at that point. So it can be made at any point during the debate, whenever it's going on. The motion to limit a debate is not itself a debatable motion. So like a motion to table, for example, it's something that you immediately, once it's seconded, you stop and you take a vote on the motion to limit debate. It takes immediate precedence over other debatable motions. It requires a 2/3 vote, however.
That's once it's seconded, right?
I'm sorry?
That's once it's seconded.
Once it's seconded, yeah. Any motion requires a second. So once you limit debate, it requires a 2/3 vote. Now, that makes sense because you don't, again, want it to be used as a political tool by somebody who views themselves as in the majority and wanting to shut down, honest debate about a topic. Believe it or not, a motion to debate can be amended, but that too makes sense because if Susan proposes a motion to limit debate to 3 minutes, and it gets seconded quickly, you don't have a lot of opportunity to think about it, but you think, well, this resolution on, some bike lane issue might take 10 minutes. That might be a fairer number. So you might want to say, well, I would move to amend that motion to 10 minutes or to 7 speakers, whatever it may be. So that's the purpose of the motion to amend motion to limit debate. And yeah, that can just be to cut it to a shorter, longer time or than what's originally proposed. It's really that simple. Again, none of this is meant to be a trick or a cudgel to override what the chair is trying to do, but it's really to help control what's going on in the room so that we don't get the runaway train that has us there till 10:15, 10:30 at night.
Susan?
Yes?
So what do you think is the smartest way to go? I think there is something to be said about limiting debate. I do. And how long do we limit it? Because we want to be fair, but I think anything longer than 10 minutes, and even that's too long for me, but 10 minutes is more than reasonable, I think.
It starts to be an issue for me when you have 40 people in the room, right? 4 of them were at the committee, 5 of them were committee, 6 of them committee. So we got 30 people now, maybe, let's call it, in the room. And people are arguing back and forth. They either haven't read the resolution or they did read the resolution and they want to change the entire thing. And you get 12 hands up immediately. Even if we limited people to 1 minute, that's 12 minutes alone. So usually what happens is you get through, I try and go to either round in an order or, try and make it somehow, try and pick the people where either way to try and get the most amount of input in with the least amount of pain, right? But then, even at full board last time, we're kind of like rolling along here, and then our acting timer said, can we motion to limit debate? I'm like, yeah, because we weren't getting anywhere, right? People were talking personal stories and we weren't actually focusing on, and then other stories about other things. I'm like, no, this is very specific about this intersection and this here. If it's not about that, it's not that I don't want to hear you, but I don't want to hear it now, right? And it's very, very hard because we're all here to represent our communities and we all have situations that are very, very similar or very, very different. But we want to have a productive debate. And at the end of the day, if you don't like it, vote against it, right? And that's, I think, the problem is oftentimes when people feel that they're gonna vote against it and they're trying to
Convince
caucus
you.
to get more people to vote against it. Okay, I get that. That's fine. That's an option that people have. That's what the process is about. But you shouldn't be delaying it and coming back with 10 times of, oh, no, no, I want to rebut that. You know, if everybody rebuts everything, then you make no progress.
So I would say two things, Susan, in response to your question. One, I wouldn't necessarily think about it as an arbitrary limit to every debate, right? Everything's going to be a little different for whatever reason.
Okay.
What I noticed at the last full board meeting, even though I wasn't there and I did watch the full YouTube, was that, you know, there was one resolution where some members reappeared multiple times in that particular debate. I would have tried to cut that off.
Yeah.
With using this tool. This is just a tool. It's not meant to be a weapon. It's really just a tool. Again, I mean, the other thing I was gonna say that I think it's always important to remember that we have to respect the chair and let the chair, again, whether it's chair of the community board, chair of the committee meeting, lead that discussion, because that person is just directing traffic and really trying to make sure that
Right.
everybody's voice is heard, that it's respectful, that everybody gets an equal amount of time or an equal-ish amount of time. And that voices and diversity of opinions are out there, but also knowing, I mean, my God, things like this room closes at a certain hour. There are a number of other factors that go into that, and you gotta let that person who's in charge really control the meeting.
As chair, would it be effective for Tammy to start the meeting by saying that we're discussing this and as chair, she would like to have it that we abide by a 15-minute more or less maximum, let me just finish,
Yeah.
on debate. And that, only one person, you're only going to be heard from one, so we can go around with one. That's it, I
Yes.
can't even say, that you get the one person rule, however you want to define it. Now, it could be that you start seeing this moving into 16, 17, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
at which point, you know, Jeff's hands goes up.
It's certainly the chair's prerogative to say,
To
I'm
do
gonna
that.
set a rule that, you know, I'm only gonna go around and recognize everybody once. Or I'm gonna go around the rule, you know, we do this with contentious land use applications. We would say, everybody's gonna get 2 minutes. And we'll just go around the room
Right.
congressional style.
So she could do that,
Yeah.
and that has to be abided by.
We have
Sure.
tried to do it, and there are people who, object vociferously to it. But I think, you know, I'd like to go with it, we go around once. And if Susan makes a point, and then Pat makes a point, and Jeff disagrees with the point, he's gotta hold his tongue. There's an advantage to going last.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is why I normally say, I'd like to hear from the community, I wanna hear from the board members, and then I'll go. Because I wanna hit it once and I wanna be done. I think the problem becomes, and I'm gonna use you, Jeff, I'm sorry, is that Jeff says, well, you know, Susan, I agree with you on this, but I don't like A, B, and C. And then Pat goes and Jeff says, that's really interesting, but I agreed with here and not, and like, his thought process is out loud for everyone. And we have a few board members who like to do that. I myself would include myself in that. So it's very hard to wrangle. Because then they don't feel like they've been heard because they haven't been able to respond.
I think too, when you're the chair of a committee, you have to, it's different when you're chairing a full board meeting, in my estimation. When you're chairing a committee and you're building consensus and trying to get a
Correct.
resolution together, it's a lot different. It's a little bit more of a give and take. So this probably isn't a tool that you'd see used in too many committee meetings, but,
Right.
For that.
Yes, and it's probably less needed in a,
Right.
as you're saying.
The
I mean,
purpose of committee is
to have
Yeah.
this.
that is.
point of information fit into this whole scenario? Because there are people who are just going off with complete misinformation.
Yeah.
At what point do you say,
I
point of
think,
information?
I think the point of information is sort of excuse me, I have a simple question. I mean, it can't be really used as a debate tool. It's really just meant like, sorry, I don't understand. Are we voting on the first thing or is this about proposal number 2 on the ballot initiative? It's really meant for purely informational purposes, just to orient the particular member on what's going on, what the body's deliberating about.
Right, just.
I was thinking it was actually narrower than that.
Okay.
For instance, people on a debate about class 2 e-bikes. We're talking about illegal dirt bikes. And you say, point of information, the topic of this resolution is not what you're talking about.
I think, yeah, I'm not sure the point of information is the tool used. I think you just,
Point of information is usually a request for information.
yeah.
It's not,
It's a request by a member of the body. I think what you're really looking for is to then refocus the group on the
That's
question.
for the chair to say.
To say, look, all well and good, we can talk about it another time, but here's what we're
Yeah.
talking about, what we have,
That's what
a
I want.
question that's for us, and you really just try to keep them
Keep them on
focused
focus.
on that.
Yeah.
and actually the point of information is not necessarily for the person speaking. It is for anybody in the body who has a detailed piece of information. So,
Or who just doesn't understand, like who's really confused about something.
right, so if you have information that's pertinent to what the point of information says, let's say I'm talking about, District 2 numbers, right? And I'm not sure, and I say something and Pat says, point of information, can you clarify X? I may not have that information, but if Tricia raises her hand and she does, then I'm gonna recognize Tricia, who is the expert who has that information. That's kind of the way point of information is supposed to
Yeah.
work. Point of order, which gets raised a ton of times as well, is when the member thinks the rules of the assembly are being violated. And, that's one of those things, but Robert's rule says this, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine, great, but no, I've already said this, we're moving on.
It's
Again, this is 2025.
Right,
Robert's Rule of Order is great. It really is a great tool, a great guide to help deliberative bodies like ours. But it just can't be, we're not the United States Senate. And it's not
Even they have
the
their own.
labyrinth of rules that people can use to their
Yeah, yeah,
advantage
yeah.
and tease out is just not very.
Is there any reason to consider what we see in all council meetings, for example, or any of the agency meetings where you have 3 minutes or 2 minutes to speak your piece, and then you have the 2-minute rule for each person to speak, which is kind of what we're talking about, I guess.
It's in our bylaws.
Is there a difference to Tammy coming out and saying you have 15 minutes and each person gets 2 minutes and we abide by that rule and in fact there is a timer that cuts you off? Or I'm just not sure how motion to limit debate then filters into her requirement, which is keep it short. Is there a way to do that effectively?
Yes, because I did it last month, because, I know, it's okay. So there was a motion to limit debate that was made by Christine. And we were, 15, 20 minutes, maybe even 30 into the resolution. And she made a motion to limit debate. And she said, my suggestion, she asked as a question, would 6 to 8 minutes work? And I look at the hands that were up and I said, if we gave everybody 1 minute each, we could manage this in 8. She said, motion to limit to 8. We went forward with 8 because there were a lot of people around the room going, I didn't even ask for a vote on it because there were people going, right? It was really clear that we were gonna get there. And then she just hit that timer, 1 minute, that's it, next, next, next. And I kept going back because Mark wasn't ready to go through what he wanted changed and, pick your verbiage, Okay, no, you're not ready. I came back to him. So by the time I came back to him at the end, there was no verbiage really changed and we just took the vote.
That's right.
But
Nobody wants to end meetings earlier than I do, and I think Tammy, you generally do a good job in limiting debate. But I did want to say that the board meeting is the time for the full board to address something that a committee did. And it's impossible for any one member to go to every single committee meeting. It's unreasonable to expect them to do that or to even be monitoring the agendas to see if they can switch their schedule around and go to some committee meeting. And some of these motions are important. Some of these resolutions are very important. And so I think the debate in the full board is an important part of the process. And I think we should be very careful in restricting, unreasonably restricting the debate. If I remember right, I mean, I don't actually thought the bylaws said we follow Robert's Rules of Order.
No, you know, I
They
looked
don't?
that up.
Okay,
And-
then they don't. Maybe an old version
Well,
did, and maybe they were taken out for a reason.
I'll tell you, what it says is, this, when it's talking about the duties of the chair,
Mhm.
it says one of the duties is to interpret and enforce Robert's Rules of Orders, except as superseded by the bylaws, right? The chair may appoint a parliamentarian to assist in resolving any parliamentary issues. That's the only mention.
Well, that implies that we're supposed to follow Robert's Rules of Order, unless the chair makes an affirmative decision
Correct.
to depart from them. And I think in
Yeah.
general, we should, unless you think they're being abused. That doesn't, I'm not saying that's necessarily inconsistent in the thrust of what we're talking about here. But I think if someone's making a motion to limit debate and, well, first of all, it needs to be passed by a 2/3 vote, and we haven't followed that process. It's just, oh, the chair says, fine, yes, we'll do that.
We have voted on it before.
Okay, well, we should. I mean,
I mean, we take a temperature in the room. So far, when it's uncomfortable,
Mhm.
we have taken a full-on vote on it.
Yeah, I think that's a good and then I don't want to tie the chair's hands in running an efficient meeting, because I think that's very, very important, and nobody wants to be there till 10 o'clock at night, and nobody wants to sit through some motion debate or resolution debate where it's pretty clear where people stand, but people just want
To speak.
But I
and
mean,
say it over and over again. But I'm just saying we should be judicious
right.
in how we limit.
But we've said this before,
Mm.
because there are times when there is a topic that the whole board has not really gotten enough information on. It affects all of us, and we really need to discuss it.
Which we have tabled. That's how we end up getting to tabling, so it can go back to committee and be on table. But the
But-
role
but
of
also-
the chair is to interpret, right? But at the end of the day, it's the bylaws that make what we do, right? And the bylaws have a responsibility of how we do board meetings, right? And there's also a line on there that says the chair can change it up, which is really pretty funny. When you take a look at, but you know, there are things that one cannot change, right? You can't change how we vote. It's either yes, you're either in favor, you're opposed, you abstain, and recuse. I did learn something new at the COIG train this week, so this was interesting. If you have a conflict and you intend to participate in the debate at all, in any way, you must disclose it first.
Yeah.
Very, very first. It has to be the first thing that comes out of your mouth.
Yep.
Okay. Then we know that you are recusing. Fine. If you say nothing during the entire debate, not one thing, but at the end, you recuse, you are not required to disclose what you're recusing. It's nice to do it, but you are not required. And that is because you did nothing during the debate to affect it. Interesting information, right?
Tammy, can I just say that to Pat's point about balancing the use of the motion to limit debate with those situations where, you know, we really have a meaty issue that requires thoughtful deliberation by the body, and people, to Jeff's point, haven't been able to go, should be realistically expected to go to every committee meeting, review the YouTube. I think the mechanism of the 2/3 vote is the thing that might solve your concern, right? Because it's very easy to say, if there's a motion to limit debate, and it really is the sense of the room that we need to think, this is one we need to take a real slow walk on, that motion to limit debate's not gonna pass.
Yeah.
And ironically, but this was our quick time.
It's what?
Motion to limit debate.
What did
Tricia
Brendan say?
has the last word on this. And then we're moving on. Thank you.
So I oftentimes, I just want to bring this up because I think it ties together with this moment, is that I think oftentimes when we're moving through the meeting, I know this because I'm at the end a lot, is that when Tammy says, Trisha, she's like, we've got to move it. I tend to deliver our news, resolution, information quickly. And I think it's a really bad idea. Because a lot of, for the exact reason Jeff just brought up, is that there are situations that come up that if the chair took their time and walked everybody through it, that would naturally limit debate. I think what happens sometimes is as a chair, we put a resolution out there, we don't give quite enough history. And so people are, you know, there's such a mixture of responses. Some are trying to get more information, some are jumping to conclusions. Then someone jumps to conclusions, someone else jumps on that jumped conclusion, and the thing takes off like a, you know, just flies out of control. And I think that I always, you know, Susan said this when I first joined the board, like the chair of a committee has taken a tremendous amount of time to hold these discussions in committee and has fleshed it out carefully and without those time considerations we do have at the full board. And I do think they need the respect of our attention for however long they need to introduce their topic. And I always have remembered that, Susan. I think it's such a important part. And I think when we do that, I notice that we have shorter meetings because it just has a calm, thorough delivery. You know, Patrick is such an excellent speaker. When he delivers his topics, he takes his time. I tend to rush because I'm conscious of getting through the meeting. And I realized that I think that would really benefit all of us because it would reduce the amount of questioning and people could then have clearer, you know, the understanding of what the resolution is and ask better questions. And that combined with, you know, maybe a limited amount of time for each person, that's your discretion, Tammy. You know, I feel less passionate about that my observation has been that these runaway trains happen when there isn't enough clarity given at the beginning. That's just my 2 cents.
Brendan, anything else?
So I was going to throw out there, but to that point, we do actually, and it's on the agenda, ask usually like, what are the hot topic resolutions so that we can place it in a specific way.
Make it first.
Yeah, we're trying to put the hotter topics towards the front, because people are cranky at the end. Okay, let's move forward and do the cannabis one.
So where are we?
We don't have to do anything, it was just a report by Patrick. Oh, and then the other thing is I did send out an email, which we are not gonna update the bylaws about the public hearing, the rule that came out. If you are a community board member, you may not speak at the public hearing of the full board. That is the only place that is ruled. Because in other community boards in Manhattan, you had people who were very passionate about a topic, and let's just say, budget, and they were advocating, and you're doing a public hearing about the budget. You cannot speak at the public hearing about budget and then vote on the budget. Because you are at the full board meeting as a community board member. You are not there as you are a public servant serving, you are not there in any other role that you have. That is the only place that's limited, not the public session, but the public hearing of the full board. Right, it's a very narrow ruling by the law department. It doesn't really affect us, it just know that if you sign up to speak at the public session, it can't be something that we're voting.
Like session
Or
or.
if it is,
Public hearing,
or,
thank you.
if it is, you have to recuse yourself. You vote on it.
But,
Right.
you know, our public hearings are not often on exactly what we're voting on, except budget. What we try and do sometimes, like, for example, I think, I'm gonna use Betty as an example. What we could have done, if it wasn't during budget season, was put bicycles around the Brooklyn Bridge as a public hearing in like January, knowing that it was gonna come as a topic to vote on later. And then, of course, you can speak about it at a public hearing then. Great, because we're not voting on it now. Although I will say, we never do that to.
No,
Okay.
I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right, so cannabis, can you pop that thing up? There's a brand new cannabis, this is part of OCM's new rollout of the new rules for cannabis. This is one of their next businesses, which is the event vendors and event showcase stuff. If you got a chance to see this, we did, look through this and have some questions, because this goes towards the conversations we had in committee with the operators for buyouts and things like that. So, yeah, that is, everybody take a look at that, make sure you've seen it, make sure you're ready to go. We then have some draft resolution conversations to have. We put some bullet points together, having read this before. So, a couple comments and things that we talked about was, there, it says, no cannabis showcase shall be within 200 feet of a licensed adult use retail, except when the premises is licensed to the permittee. Questions. There don't seem to be any penalties that we have seen for the breach of contract. We don't know, like, for example, it says agreements between adult use retailer and authorized licensee is upheld by whom? Like, who's the gatekeeper? We don't know. We don't know if anybody requires separate permits. That's a question. Do both parties, both the licensee and the retailer, or is it just one? And they can be at showcase is at a pop-up, a farmer's market, or a public market. And they can have it for up to 14 consecutive calendar days.
Not exceeding 45.
Not exceeding 45. Not really sure how this, how the proximity rules work for this. Like, so for example, how is the proximity rules if there was a pop-up farmer's market next to a school?
Or church.
Or a church, right? So that's questions that are unanswered, which I think we probably need to put in here.
Yeah.
And that the showcases should not be. They should follow.
Just explain to me.
The proximities.
So you said, I own the campus.
Yeah.
I'm hosting a pop-up at a,
Farmers market.
so my license can go off.
Can you sell there? I mean, what is a showcase event?
That's.
It says it's like,
That's
defined in section 130A
No,
of the cannabis law.
My
I don't see
license is-
138 here.
I didn't see it either. And it doesn't clarify.
But you.
Right, but not for showcase. Okay, so they have the rules here. Whoops.
It's exclusive use school though.
Yeah,
Which
We
is
don't
a
like-
problem, we don't like it.
right, and actually, we've been told, so we have to put that in there, because we were told that exclusive use was not relevant.
It's totally wrong.
Is not accurate. So they have it here again.
It's a school. What are they trying to get around there?
They're trying to change the retail law by using this.
Oh.
So we have to make sure that that's not.
It's all about money, Trish.
Right.
Screw education.
Exclusively, it's so interesting because I wonder if they're trying to get around it by saying
Yeah.
the community center workout
Oh,
groups
did
in
you
the evening.
But you can take this as
well.
There, I found the definition.
Oh,
Cannabis showcase event shall mean an event where a licensee authorized to conduct retail sales and so forth. Engages. License. It's an event where a licensee authorized to conduct retail sales of adult use cannabis product, engages in the sale and showcase of such products away from the licensed premises.
Right.
In partnership with, at minimum, one licensed New York State cultivator and minimum processor at showcase events that are located at standalone cannabis sale, pop-up events, farmers markets, and public markets as defined in Department of Ag. So it's like a stand at a
Yeah.
farmer's market. Although it looks like they have to be in aligned with a cultivator.
Well, it's just can't you be the cultivator along with you, like
Yeah.
somebody has to represent the fact that
Yeah.
you're doing good for the state, like not
Yeah.
only you selling it, but the guy who makes.
Yeah.
But can't you be the cultivator?
I can be a cultivator.
You could be a vertical operation.
Yes, yes,
But I answered it.
yes. So, yeah. So this is public comment period, so we're gonna put in our comments. So far, to clarify, who needs to be licensed, right? Who needs to be person. We have to object about the exclusive building because that's not accurate. We don't know any timelines on here that I can see. Like, can one retailer have concurrent showcases in different locations on the same day at the same time? Does each one require a separate permit or is it just one permit? Right, is this an event showcase or do you have one permit and then you can be at 10 locations? Because I'm the licensed retailer and I grow my own and I'm going to put somebody over at Battery Park City Farmers Market. I'm gonna be over at the,
Here's what it
I
says.
thought that Jeff
A
said you
licensee
have
may
to be.
participate in more than one cannabis showcase event, so long as each cannabis showcase event has a corresponding separate cannabis showcase event permit.
so I could permit for 10 of them and do 10 in a day.
But then I thought you said you had to be,
You have to be with the
you have to
process,
be there.
both the
with the
processor and a cultivator has to be at
Right,
the
so
same
how can I
time.
be in 10 places at one time?
But you can have
Because
many cultivators as part of that.
Cultivators, but you have to be there too.
No, Your
There can be many-
representative.
Yeah, there can be many.
Employees.
if
Yeah.
we are all part of the same company, I'm sending every one of you out to a different location. Cause I'm gonna corner the market. That's kind of what that is, so.
Is this
I
a
mean,
done deal or is this something?
No, this is public comment, so,
On the regulate, what I'm reading from is the statute. So this is a done deal, but these are the regulations, I guess, proposed regulations to implement the statute.
right. So we can certainly comment.
And then also enforcement. These are recommendations AI has made.
Commenting on these regulations, on these 22.
Right, there's no, that I could see, there's no, promoting information.
Signage or anything like that. at the platform.
Wait, you mean, there was information about like, signage.
See, permittees can conduct no more than how many at the same time, Jeff?
Well, I'm trying to look that up. That's not what's used.
And it says an authorization from the municipality.
That's
Mhm.
yeah.
Who is that?
It would be city. It would be the
Not
city or the
us.
state. It would not be us.
It would not be us.
It would
They
be.
don't want
if
it
I
to.
was Yeah.
If it does.
It's small.
It specifically said that we would not.
It said not safe, well.
No, it said that the community board would not, be, as, like, they're not part of the.
We don't want to be.
Well,
They being.
the city put us as, well, yeah. Right, we have a hearing. All right, so the question starts to become, and are therefore be it resolved with
So
board.
there are only 2 events at the same time, maximum per permittee.
Okay. So, but we want to clarify that exclusive use is not accurate, for the distancing. And that should change. What else do we want to say here?
Did you get the enforcement thing that we need, to identify who and how it's going to be enforced?
Yep. Any other questions, comments? No, I mean, security insurance, all theirs and stuff like that.
So I'm thinking about loitering.
Because it's to be done at food markets, pop-up locations, farmers markets.
Those are the only places.
No, public open spaces, they could, they could create their own event area. They could permit like a SAPO permit and have their own street there. Correct.
They have to have a sign that says no on-site consumption of cannabis.
Oh, good.
In Asian.
If you're outside,
No one's.
Let's say
It's outside.
Yeah, it's the same. People walk away from you and like this. Right? Yeah, it is like alcohol. I mean, it's the same.
They smoke their drugs.
Yes.
It's great.
So, are there anything else that anybody wants to add on this
Get rid of
before we call? Call the question.
But get rid of them all.
It's been called and seconded.
Okay, so since I can't recall, I assume that that was called on the second. All right, so all in favor? Are there any abstentions, any opposition or refusal? Fantastic. All right, that brings us to district needs. Let's roll. All right,
I'm just fascinated by the responses.
Yeah.
I-
We think it's
Why
why
do we
time
do
the hard
this?
work is they're giving to the responses. I mean, it's
I mean,
fun.
it's insane.
the agency does shit, pardon my language, I'm sorry, Ron.
What are we doing with this and which one?
Yeah, what do you want us to do?
Okay, so it is organized, one.
Which one are we looking at?
Set is capital, one is expense. They're organized by agency, because this year we are ranking them by agency. Committees did work on these, so,
Yeah.
the only thing they did not do is not all committees ranked. And some, there is some committee overlap with agencies, so there is some, gaps there for rankings. So, I need to from my notes, that's capital.
So is this just like a final review of like, yeah, are there any that were taken out? Is that the question for this?
It's up to you, this is what's been accumulated. So it's up to,
Which one are you looking at first? The one with the blackout on or the white?
Do we need to look at these at all? Because the committees have already said and they limited and.
We don't vote in committee. They sent everything. We just need eyes on it, so people should review it and ensure. There is, I need to ensure, because we heard from DOT yesterday, that, Washington Street remains on the capital list. So we need to add that for repaving and resurfacing with both DEP and DOT once the scaffolding is removed from 90 Washington. So we can get that done.
so we have wards.
We can extend that, yeah. Okay.
I have to look at it, because the one side is in line, right.
Can you, can you read it out, whatever you think, so we can have it on record and make sure that we get it right?
And then I also noticed that we have, like, for example, there's one is on both lists, so open dining. Yeah. I don't know how intentional that is.
And expense.
There are multiple DOT items on those.
I don't think you guys had, you made one of them on purpose on both.
No.
So maybe I misunderstood.
Right, there's some.
We took a couple of them that are still
No.
sitting on here.
We have the back, the last page here, open dining.
Which one?
On the one with the,
So that's.
yeah.
Full things last year.
So I can't. Yeah, this looks old. This looks like it was last year's.
It's last year's, but okay, so just to explain the document. If you're looking at the one with the Cs on the left, that's all capital, right? See the rankings there,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
last year's rankings, but it's not organized by ranking. It's organized by agency.
Yeah.
Then there's the explanation of request, that's last year's. If your committee changed it, there will be edits in the modified explanation section. If your committee crossed it out, there'll be a strike through.
That did not happen.
If there's a new item, it'll say new in last year priority.
We have one.
Where? I don't see it.
No,
That's it, that's the only one.
This, I can take this and just send you the edits if you want.
Sure.
Okay. So I've given them to Lucia. There's just two that aren't represented here.
Okay.
The edits on it.
Yeah, it's not.
Prioritizing, we kept state priorities really.
well, we didn't,
Yes.
quality, we didn't rank them, we just did them.
Well, we struck out.
Guys, lower the crosstalk if you've got questions or comments, please, because we don't hear it. Susan, go.
So we have this, which I think came from our committee, which says, open dining, increased staffing for oversight by DOT to enforce the program sidewalk roadbed regulations. And it's ranked for new priority 15. Oh, so that's the new priority. Okay. It's on the very last, no, it's not capital O, I'm sorry, I got it ahead of myself.
Okay. So what was the question or?
It's on enforcement.
So I think there's some updates needed for the transportation one. Which is capital or expense,
Where?
or both. Okay. I can go ahead and call them out.
Under the new item, would you give them?
Page, are you on expense or capital?
Unfortunately, it's on expense, and my comment is going to be, this is probably not what it is.
It's not where it belongs.
It's a $500,000 project.
What page is it on?
Okay, so so all those new ones for DOT, I didn't actually transfer over what it would be as capital or expense, so you can see that section is blank there. So I printed it and realized that DOT's new projects I didn't assign a category. So if you want to assign those quickly, we can assign.
Expense, and then have the.
You're saying page 4,
It's page 4, is the, yes.
develop a pedestrian priority. Capital, okay. Right above it, contribute funding to expansion of Duane Park.
Oh, but that's another problem, which maybe it was off the problem.
Here.
There were two of them ranked as number 3 when I was only one being.
I think this
So
was,
that eliminates it.
I think this was moved to
Oh, that
parks.
one.
Is that a parks or no?
No, that was the one that was double. Wayne Park, they made the comment that it is in parks. But in parks, they're funding a whole different thing than a DOT would be funding. DOT funds things like the sidewalk, the crosswalks, things that are financially breaking Wayne Park are DOT items. They're not covered by the Parks Department.
Okay,
They're different budget items.
okay, so we have one for parks and one for DOT. Okay. So is this capital or is this expense?
And Parks Department discussed it also though, so Parks has it on their listing.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Oh, yeah, there was.
Yeah, that's intentional.
I would say this one's capital then, this DP.
Okay.
Okay, and then develop implementation plan for safety, Left Street, that's probably expense, yeah? Okay, resurface Little West,
It's expensive.
expense. Develop a comprehensive plan for capital improvements to Center Street from Chamber Street.
It was expense because he asked us for a separate resolution for capital.
Great, okay,
I'm
so,
just taking Patrick Kennedy.
So you have, is this contribute to, funding to the expansion of Duane Park? Is that capital?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
On page 5, there's one more. Provide the Friends of Barnet Human Triangle with support to facilitate.
And again, this is somewhat duplicated because it's also with the environmental committee put it in, even though it's also still a DOT request. That somehow has to be harmonized, so it shouldn't appear twice.
Yeah,
The
I
DOT item.
put it, the modified explanation.
Oh, there it is. Support the
Right, so somehow harmonize the two of them, it doesn't need to appear twice.
Increase and beautify the footprint.
I'm sorry. The
Please.
part of the, we have the same problem like Duane Park, which is of course a great deal, this is divided between parks and Department of Transportation in terms of that particular Green Street, and so I don't know if we could then do the same to have it in both places.
We can pair well.
Okay, thank you.
Zach, if you want to do it, same thing you do with Wayne Park.
Yes.
Split it with the same,
I have to sort of see, I was trying to get rid of a lot of those.
Yes.
And consolidate also, Brendan and, Betty, but I was trying to work on the base, so I'll look page 5.
5 expense up.
Here.
So similar to how we're doing Duane Park, we have it as parks and DOT. We'll do it as parks and DOT.
Right, I think the parks is capital, I assume you want to change it to capital here with DOT.
Okay,
Yes.
I got it.
Well, that's,
So we should be making edits now here.
okay, that should be parks. Why do you make the new one the parks?
Can we finish off the DOT stuff?
Yeah.
You go to, staying on page 5, I go to the second
There are
item.
two different ones.
After the word,
Two of
let it out.
I only have one.
Did you hear that?
no,
No, sorry.
No, there's
So-
no more, the one that I just gave them.
Everybody be back. On page 5, after the word greenway. That was to be omitted.
sorry, which item?
So I'll say it.
The second
It's
item,
on page 5.
yeah,
It is the second item. It has number 28.
yeah,
It says study blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It says Greenway. After the semicolon, all that text comes out.
look at the modified explanation to the right, that's the new text.
Okay.
And that's what.
Oh, that's it. Okay, I got it. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, the modified explanation is incorrect.
It's incorrect,
Well, obviously, I mean, this is about a bike lane. There is another entry in here about turning BC Street into a green path. But that's a separate item that's also in here. But this isn't the one that the Transportation Committee asked for. Where's the other one? Let me look. I saw it too.
We have errors too. Should I be talking about them now?
Yes, but we're going just through transportation.
I only had one. We're very simple.
okay, so I'm gonna kick that on to you, because I don't know how to fix that.
You guys.
It's fine with me. I
Okay.
thought you would. My plan to share.
So Pat,
He's talking about this.
Yeah, this goes.
Are you, yeah, but are you
Page
taking
5,
this one?
E
No.
28:7.
You said there's another one, Bessie.
Okay, so
There it
you guys made a bunch of us.
If you look at the
So,
third one,
There should be still a shared street one.
there is the shared street.
This shares.
Okay.
No, there's one specifically shared street, no mention of a bike lane.
Yeah, but it's a,
No, this is,
okay,
It
gotcha,
got
gotcha,
changed.
gotcha, gotcha. All
it
right.
got changed to,
All right, we're gonna go to the next one.
The next one, which is safety improvements on pedestrian visibility, the one that's on Pearl Street.
page 5 right
It's
before that.
gone down to the
E
third.
1410. Okay,
That is also listed as a on the capital list. So it's listed as an expense and a capital, and that was not intentional. And fine.
Which one should it be?
it's on capital, so we should take it off of capital, is that correct?
Well, what's the cost value?
Oh, that's totally like a capital thing.
Take it off expense.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and as far as the one that Kenny was asking for about the shared street. Well, that's on page 2, 1, 2, 3, 4th item down. Capital.
It's on page 2 of capital.
Page 2. there.
Did you hear that, Tammy?
I'm sorry, what, sorry, no,
It's on, the,
Two.
we're on the
Page
capital
2 what?
list.
gotcha.
4th item
The
down.
one that you were asking about,
Yep,
That's where,
The last one?
Study. and-
study and creation shared street.
yep.
that's where that explanation can be moved to. It's written for this, not the bike lane.
Page 2.
Connecting everybody right in.
Study and creation of shared streets to improve pedestrian and bicycle east-west access between Church and West on Bessie with a dedicated bike lane, street furniture, paint and planters to create the new space.
Yeah, she's saying that I moved the, yes, those two.
Read the explanation from page 5
To,
and use
Yeah.
that.
and what do you want to do with the one,
How did I get bumped down to 6 this year?
what, okay, so that was the modified version, do you want to keep the original version, or what are you doing with the
Do you
original?
wanna keep this?
Oh, this was voted very high by.
Oh, yeah, yeah, so, no, I meant, he meant the description.
Keep
Yeah.
the original language.
Keep the original language, but still take out the include something, blah, blah, blah. Everything after the semicolon.
And then the modified explanation is incorrect because it really belongs with that.
Yep.
Move
Take out
to
that.
capital.
Support
Oh.
cannot.
Got two big states.
Capital 4-6.
Here, sorry.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Anything else, Betty?
Although marketing about
6 is. This says the agency does not support and cannot accommodate the group requests.
Why just ignore that?
Yeah, and we submit.
We torment them any way we can.
Hey, Tricia, I think you're up.
Okay, so
Capital or expense?
a couple of these didn't get translated. Capital expense has Cs on them, okay. Go back to that one.
I was looking at the numbers and you don't seem to go in.
Our capital expenses are all fine except for the PS 150.
Okay,
That was already agreed.
capital or expense?
Capital.
It had a C on it, so that's.
Capital.
What page is it?
2.
2.
This PS 150 lacks outdoor gathering space. Okay, I might lose my mind reading this. PS 150, I just sent Tammy all the emails today, in fact. Somehow, the agreement that the Department of Transportation made with us, which I have in an email from Jennifer Loon, 2021, that the westbound lane of Edgar Street is to be closed in the mornings to provide a space to receive the 900 people descending upon PS 150, because at the moment, they have is a 600 square foot entry area. So that lane is to be closed.
Okay, so
This isn't a request in a capital, this isn't a capital request, so this can be taken off.
No.
Because I
They
don't-
asked us to leave this here, PS 150. And we will, the closing of street, the way you're describing it, we just need to send back to them, because that's an open street permit, which they have already applied
It's
for.
not an open street permit, Tammy. If you look at the email from Jennifer Loom, the open street was a choice, but the other choice was for them to put up the barriers themselves I'll pull it up. Read it.
DOT doesn't put barriers up.
I'm gonna read it. Let me just read the email. Because I'm just concerned if we put this under an ask, it'll negate the fact that they've already agreed to this. Do you see what I mean? That
It
concerns
was
me.
only closed during the morning?
Just the morning, because we lost the afternoon request because they have to have empty buses come up the spur. And, there was
That would be
something
the
about the
ideas.
fact that it would be too difficult. They have to go back out that way, I guess, or something. The afternoon, we didn't win. So that I get, but the morning, we won. So in the morning, I'm sorry, I just said westbound.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is closed in the morning. You've got
East
this,
and west?
the
I think
westbound.
we should focus on what the capital expense is and whether or not we want to keep it.
So it depends, that answer depends upon what we drill down here, because PS 150 wants this, but they may not be aware of the fact that the DOT has already promised it. So what
Okay.
does everybody suggest
What
we do?
what I can suggest, and I haven't brought this up because I found it to be overly complicated and unnecessary, but there is actually a third category, and it's called continuing support. And so you could make this a continuing support and write exactly what they already agreed to.
That sounds like exactly right.
We could do that.
Sounds good.
All right, so
Sounds good.
this is capital expense on page 2, number 6. We're gonna put that under continued support.
Yes.
And it needs to be rewritten.
So I will
So-
need your rewriting on that.
All right, do you want me to send it?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
take it after.
Okay.
Zach, I have one.
On your revised capital, what's 1, 2? Because I see 4 on DOT, 5 on DOT, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I found 2. Which is public restroom. Where's 1?
It might be on the,
One is on the page 7. No, sorry, take that back.
Yeah, that's.
No.
Like-
No, I don't
on
see one.
capital. Looking at capital for DOT.
no, it might be on the expense list, because remember, we just went through and like separated what was capital and expense for the new ones.
But don't we rank capital and expense separately?
Right, no, that's what I'm saying. Right, so
so-
remember, we just went through
Yeah,
that
yeah.
exercise, because
So
it was,
we're just missing
empty.
number 1.
For DOT?
For DOT, there are 2 number 2s. One is restrooms around Brooklyn Bridge arches and surrounding park space. But if I remember correctly, and Betty, you can tell me if I'm wrong, number 2 is, which is on page 4, is the same as the public restroom for 1 center.
One,
contribute to funding expansion to the park, and
That's the same as waterfront and parks, number 2, is a good one.
You gotta look at the agency.
Yeah, DOT.
so we made 2 capital that are on the expense list.
So,
But that one, so maybe we could take that off,
so here's a question.
is,
What I'm asking is, shouldn't we put PS 150, which is the safety for the kids, as a number 1 capital expense to fix that?
that one is so confused and has been continued to be confused. Because they were talking about the sidewalk, and this talks about expanding the sidewalk too. There was a time when 150 did not want to expand the sidewalk, which made sense because they were going to be the buses, the express buses, Staten Island, were needed in Vernon. So they couldn't build a sidewalk over something, so it was agreed.
goes on mine.
This had such a long history. There was an agreement that no, they would
Andrew.
close down
Okay.
the westbound lane when it's going to be used as a gathering space. At that point, the Petro Marte's office had said they would supply a gate, a swing gate that could be used to make it easier for the school to close it off, or when they were closing it off for.
They have gates that they branded. And, I mean, they told us on the call, this week that actually somebody picked up the gate, moved it up the street and stole it. I told them to call the cops and take it back. But they have a, barricade that they put up.
But no, I understand. To me, that's support of my argument that the decision was really not for the expansion of the sidewalk and capital project. It was for working with a temporary situation. And I believe we actually have a resolution that specifically says that.
The issue, Trish, are you paying attention here?
Mhm.
Okay, the issue is they were told they had to file for the open street permit, which Councilmember Marte approved, the community board widely supported, they had full support and DOT still turned it down. I'm not sure why, but it was for, 9 to 2 during school. I don't know why, I just don't. So we can certainly advocate to fix that quickly. I told them to ask for forgiveness because they should
So
take
do
it.
Betty and I have the same thing? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not seeing, where's the
Where's
PS
this?
150 for DOT?
I'm not seeing
It's under
Betty's.
Youth and Ed on page
It's
2,
underneath.
the handwritten page 2, bottom one.
So it's already a done deal. I have it in an email. I can send it back to Ed and Jennifer,
It's no longer there.
or whoever it is. Luis, this has been going on so long that Luis Sanchez has an email in my box. I swear to God.
I'm telling you, I can give you a better record of time because this was so much.
Okay, all
You
right.
can give me a better recent record of time, but I can give you a better longer record of time.
Okay, stop.
But no, I want to just say, Tammy, I think it's important for us to not let the agencies reroute us to new ways of solving something they've already guaranteed doing. The school opening was contingent upon that. That's what I'm trying to just,
But
Betty?
let's give you one resolution.
what do you mean? We have a resolution as well on this
A
issue.
more updated resolution came out of transportation, is what Betty's trying to say. Betty?
We went through at least twice, and the DOT engineers had said what they could and could not do with 3 or 4 options. DB1 voted on the option they wanted, and with the guidance of the school at that time, what they preferred,
How long ago was that?
after the school opened.
Okay.
After opening.
As it was back then, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Last year.
We're gonna suss this out, figure it out, and we'll move it along so we don't get stuck on this one, but I do.
But I was saying until then, we do have it under that third option that Zach said, which is like continued support.
Yep. I think that's.
I think that's fine to say at this point.
Yeah.
We have 2 resolutions. We have one from youth and we have one from transportation.
Yep.
And it sounds like they're contradictory items.
No, they're updated. It
Or they're
was
just-
what DOT initially proposed and what the engineers came back with and said what they could do. It's a very.
Why would an engineer be involved in the temporary barriers being put up on the street?
I think
I'm
that's
not
different.
following that.
We're talking about closing a street down or not, it's all related to traffic.
I see.
But Jeff, I think you're up.
Yeah, just one item, Zach, it's on expense page 8. I neglected to respond to your email where you suggested we drop it since we discovered they have this capability. That's the 911, 311.
Which one on page 8?
Are you talking about the handwritten numbered pages or
Is
is it?
that E43?
E40.
No, it's a expense.
Yeah.
Page
Gotcha.
8,
Oh,
E43.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I don't think I responded to your email.
No, I think I didn't translate.
I actually have one more on
Thank you,
expense.
Right.
Okay, Richard?
I just have one on expense. The other budget request review, we decouple funding from class.
Sorry, what page?
So this is page 3 on expense. You'll see at the bottom, it says decouple funding from class size, reduce class size. And it'll say fund classroom by teacher or class instead of funding per pupil. This is updated because a law was passed in the meantime. We've asked for this for 10 years. So 2 years ago, is changed. So it should read, decouple funding from class sizes, reduce class size as per the mandated Class Size Reduction Act. And then you can end with the same sentence. This will ensure funding isn't reduced as a result of creating better teacher-student ratios. So it's just that sentence needs to be changed. And that's it.
Adding that sentence, as per the mandated class size reduction act.
Yes.
Susan, Francis, Pat, y'all got anything?
Warren. Oh, wait, oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't know, yeah. Quality.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was asking, so on the expenses on page 2, the enhanced NORC, it's number 2 on page 2. If the agency says it's not supported, cannot accommodate, why do we keep doing this?
Because they can't support it in this budget, that doesn't mean they can't support it in any budget.
You're talking about for the food one?
The Gateway Plaza NORC.
Do we still want to North at Gateway Plaza?
Yeah. Short. So then that's it.
With that, can we vote?
Francis? I bet you have one. A couple.
No, I mean, it comes under Andrew's view.
Any next questions on waterfront parks?
Yeah.
You just need to say something, and Andrew is online, he's just having troubles working through the documentation.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, well, we have, I think there's a, the DOT is already.
That's something, do the agencies ever meet with you and sit down and discuss each one of these items? What is the sort of follow-up?
So.
I mean, I'm just wondering, as an exercise, I don't quite get it, like, is there something where this actually, I don't know,
Goes somewhere.
is that?
Something,
Yeah, I just had you for the hours of time we've all spent, like, what happened?
it's all go out in,
Feedback.
end of October.
Yep.
Beginning of November, and then they write, these responses to them. And then, we can choose to do what we will with those responses.
This is last year's.
No, I understand, I'm just curious, like, that's a system, I'm just wondering, is there some better way to integrate agency response and follow through than other than just handing this a sheet and then saying, go away, and
I strongly recommend that once they respond to all these, the committee then looks at their responses at that time, not at the time of
Yes.
resubmission. And then make a decision on what should you do with those responses. And you can absolutely have the agency come in and say,
Well, that-
hey, I want to talk about X, Y, and Z. I want to talk about all of them. I want to talk about our top 3.
I think that would be a really worthwhile thing to have happen in exec at some point where they actually have agency representation and we really push our council member to help us get them here so that these things really get discussed. I don't know, it just seems like there's some great ideas.
Each committee is responsible to push on within what the responses are for their own committees. So yes,
Yeah.
some do better than.
Andrew's, in terms of what,
I
Andrew?
think you're talking about E13
Yeah,
on page 8. Could
On
you say,
page-
but it sounds like it would be part of like the,
and it's on 4, page 4.
for DOT.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think that's, again, it's like a parallel path thing where like part of that is DOT, sidewalks, that sort of thing, and part of it is like an actual park.
Yeah.
So it's worthwhile having probably in both places.
really? Well, we have like 2 number 2.
Yes.
There's.
What's your water thing? Francis. What's your water?
Where are we?
So,
There are,
Expense page 8.
yeah, there are, that's,
Sorry, are we talking about parks, and
Yes.
waterfront parks? Yeah, I think I
Yes.
noticed there were 2 number 2s, so Zach, let me get back to you a little bit later this evening to update that or revise that.
Andrew, I think maybe I'll get you a, new copy for yours, because I took I had to translate yours into here, so I might have not picked up everything or not understood everything.
If you can send it to me, I'll get to it either later tonight or first
Yeah.
thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah, because there's,
Cool. Susan, you got anything?
we had that one,
We did the one.
with the one,
I mean, is it okay? Do we need to make any changes?
No, the hat, not money.
no,
Oh, we did the other. That one, the last,
Which list? Capital or expense?
it's on the, you have it at the back page.
Or C or E?
E,
E,
Back page,
staff, last one,
oh, open dining.
page 11.
yeah.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah, that makes it. Do we got any chairs online other than Andrew that haven't spoken?
Nope, we're good.
Betty has,
Copy of a corrected list for those that are coming to my committee.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
check it again now that it's.
Yeah, we'll be looking at that to try and get that done.
You're gonna get the final of this.
Copy before. Yeah, it'll be part of the full board.
do we need,
I mean.
do we need to vote?
We do.
So I would call the question.
Thank you.
Second,
All right.
Third, fourth.
Okay. With the ones that we have talked about that will be adjusted, so can we get, it was called, it was seconded. All in favor?
I,
Any abstentions? Opposition, recusal? Fantastic. Motion passes. Thank you so much. Anybody's hair light on fire this month, or are we good to go?
we're good to go. We don't have, thank God this month. Have a lot.
So again,
Next month.
yeah.
It may not. be-
All right, so just, hey,
Want me in my.
don't even say that. Okay, so let me go and see, tell you who's first at full board. All right.
Yes, I can think of, who knows? I don't see one.
Maybe one sec.
Should we balance it by doing like?
Don't forget, Brendan, I sent you a note about the minutes. We're still recording.
I'm working on
Give
them.
give me 1 second. Brendan, please, update as you can for the
I've
minutes.
updated some already.
Please note that Jason will be test rolling as secretary. I need everybody to be kind and to Jason this month.
Yeah.
We got it.
Transportation coming right after exec. Because Betty's often last, so I'm sorry, but you're second this time. If I could go after you, I would. Last is the 2 licensing,
Yeah, because it's a simple one.
right? And so if we go through everything and we can stick to 6 minutes for reports, 2 to 3 minutes per topic per report, then I think we could be out at a reasonable hour again.
I'll do my best. I have the usual summarizing of a 3.5 hour meeting of the.
Yeah.
That's what I'm coordinating. I'll do my best.
Exactly. All right, so with that, we're going, motion to adjourn, and it will be adjourning at whatever time it is right now.
8:46.
8:46. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
So when it's raised, the